living in a country that's the finest place on earth. But some folks don't appreciate this land that gave them birth. I hear that up in Washington they're having an awful fuss, 'cause communists and spies are making monkeys out of us. The bureaus and departments have been busy night and day. They're figuring out just how we gave our secrets all away. And Congress has appointed a committee, so they said, to find out who's American and who's a low-down red. They call them up to Washington to speak for Uncle Sam. But when they ask them what they are, they shut up like a clam. I wish they'd take and put me on the witness stand today. I'd yell so loud old Stalin could hear me all the way. I'm no communist, and I'll tell you that right now. I believe a man should own his own house and car and cow. I like this private ownership, and I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business, and let me run my own. Our government is bigger than it ever was today. The more they hire to work for it, the more they have to pay. Our public servants should be proud and honest, you would think, instead of taking bribes and dressing up their wives in mink. The taxes keep on going up, of that there is no doubt, but still they just can't take it in as fast as they dish it out. Our national debt is monster size and growing every day. Our children's children still unborn are going to have to pay. Our dollar used to be the soundest money on this earth, but now $2 won't even buy a good old dollar's worth. Unless we stop inflation and take care of what we've got, the communists may win the fight and never fire a shot. I'm no communist, and I'll tell you that right now. And I believe a man should own his own house and car and cow. I like this private ownership, and I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business, and let me run my own.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to December 27th is Today the Day podcast. I'm here with War Spirit. Again, we're missing our third companion. Don't know where he's gotten off to. I think the Clinton Foundation is still trying to catch him, so we got to go fetch him whenever we feel like it. I mean, it's going to take some time, but I don't really feel like doing it right now. Let's see here. So, finally figured out this broadcasting software, which is really neat. So as you can see, we've got our own new little ability, as we used last time, to actually scroll through these different photos and kind of show off our different kind of art styles here. I personally like the broadcast kind of glitch look to things. And we, of course, have our same images from past broadcasts and everything. And what's really neat is we can actually throw images of what we're talking about up on the screen, which I'm actually about to do that right now. Lord forgive me, but I'm going to go ahead and put the first thing we're going to be talking about. Actually, before I get to popping that demon's face up, I'm going to go ahead and say a prayer.
Yes.
Lord, thank you for bringing us here today and making our travel safe, and for our bones all being in the place where they're supposed to be. Thank you, Lord, for your guidance and your wisdom and your mercies new every day. Bless this podcast, Lord, and bless New Mexico. Bless Aztec and the surrounding areas. Bless us as we walk forward in your guiding wisdom, Lord. Thank you very much for everything. Amen.
Amen.
So let me go ahead and put this... I shouldn't call her a demon, but we're going to do that. Hold on. I'm trying to put... What is it? Hold on. Oh my gosh, I can't find this. Whatever. Maybe we don't even need it.
You can't find the demon face.
I can't. I was gonna put Michelle Illusion.
What did you label it as? Just do a search.
I don't think it's in the right folder wherever it went. Either way, that's fine. We don't need her. Everyone knows who Michelle Illusion
so that
is.
means you got that demon in my computer somewhere. She's gonna freaking.
She ran out. She's wreaking havoc on your shit right now.
Oh, there goes my hard drive.
I know, right? She's pouring water on your computer.
She's gonna grab my pee-pee.
Yeah. So as More Spirit told me, I haven't heard the talk radio as much mention it because it's kind of a local thing.
Yeah, it's a local.
It's a local New Mexico thing, and I mean it has kind of made rounds around the country. Like if you put in
KRQE News.
Right, and if you put in Michelle Illusion, like Grisham in Google right now, you'll get a news article after news article of accusations she's facing from one of her, employees?
It was like a staffer, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a past person she had hired.
Yeah.
And so basically, according to this guy, what they're investigating right now is that he was sexually harassed. It was always miserable working for Michelle and everything like that. It's standard workplace harassment. And this is some crazy stuff. If what he's saying is true, it's pretty crazy. So as War Spirit told me, Michelle, she grabbed a bottle of water, she poured it on the man's lap to make an outline of his business, and then she said, "Just making sure you're a man."
She grabbed it.
Oh, she grabbed it?
She grabbed it.
Oh, okay.
She grabbed it and then said, "Just making sure you're a man."
That's crazy.
That's his accusation.
Right, and while it would, wouldn't surprise me. Michelle, she just kind of looks like a...
She looks like a perv.
She looks like a perv, but, all Democrats...
She's basically a Spanish version of, Hillary Clinton. That's what I think of her as.
And, looking at, all the Democrats and everything they support, their whole approach to, sexual freedom is very perverse every time. Right now, they're trying to normalize pedophilic behavior.
Yeah.
I know they're saying they're trying not to, but, how come they're not coming out in the open? How come these politicians and everyone else aren't coming out and saying, look, we don't want this to be part of our movement? Because that's what they need to do if they're truly against it. LGBT, every left politician just throw a stick in the Democrat Party, whoever it hits, they're going to be for the LGBT.
Right.
Or at least they're going to say that. I don't really think a lot of them truly are, but they're going to say that. And so what I'm getting at with that, it's LGBT right now, and I know a lot of people who are in the LGBT movement who are no, we don't want pedophiles in our group, because what LGBT is, it's a movement for people who are like-minded and supposedly, equally oppressed, to have a community to rely on, to go to for advice, to go to for, help and all this and that. But now you have pedophiles moving in, so now it's going to be LGBTP.
Yeah.
Which is huh? And this is already a slippery slope we warned about. But what I was saying about with Grisham, and while I was going down this rabbit hole, was well, we already know she has connections to Epstein, as she shut down the raids and everything on Zorro Ranch. And it's just hand in hand. It wouldn't surprise me if this is conclusive.
And if this does end up being true, it makes you wonder, because before, you don't really hear anything about Grisham. You definitely heard, the former governor, what's his name? That was the governor of New Mexico.
Bill
Richardson. Bill Richardson.
Yeah.
You heard he was there.
But
now it makes you wonder. It's well, how much was she involved in it? Because if she's that sexually of a deviant, I guarantee you she was involved.
And I know just the political affiliation alone, the side she's on, mm-hmm. And I that's where I'm trying to be biased here. I'm not going to be a lot of political commentators where it's something insulting we can say about our adversary. It's a fact. I'm not throwing that out there. I mean, the whole concept that she threw water on this guy and grabbed his wee-wee is a little out there, I'll be honest, but it won't surprise me.
Yeah.
And I want to follow up on this because it is local.
Yeah.
I mean, and who knows, you know. Like,
and I've only read, I've read 3 articles on it.
Right.
And so, but, this is, breaking. Like, it just
Right.
happened, it broke yesterday.
Right.
So, is it true? Is it not? I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. And it's under investigation. It's one of those things that we'll have to find out.
But look at it. Do you remember the first time you heard about Epstein?
I can't say the exact first time, no. I think it was I think it was mostly when this whole thing busted open with him.
So the first time I heard about him was through, what's his name? Crazy Man. Turn the freaking frogs gay.
Oh, Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. I heard about him. I heard about Epstein through Alex Jones, but this was year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Okay? And so at the time, I'm like, Alex Jones is crazy, man. Because he was doing that whole Pizzagate thing.
Right.
And, I was like, nah, I don't know about that, Yeah,
go ahead. Yeah,
thank you.
No,
and so I wasn't on board with him. I thought,
Right.
no.
Well, I mean, what's interesting about it, everyone regards Pizzagate now as a hoax.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about it is it was related to this, and it led to everything falling apart. But everyone's still, and that's what I get a kick out of it, they kind of relate Pizzagate as a hoax. But even if it's not even if there's not actual trafficking going on through Pizzagate, explain to me why there's so much mention to child pedophilia, shit in that restaurant.
Yeah.
Because that's not a hoax. There's mention of it. It's paintings on the wall. The symbol out front is a national communication for pedophiles to meet up there. I mean, if there's no trafficking going on, it's very clear that the owner of the place, even with his creepy Instagram
Is a
photos,
pedophile.
is a pedophile.
Yeah.
So, Alex Jones has been on board. And as he said in Joe Rogan's, one of Joe Rogan's podcasts was, I wish I wasn't right.
Yeah.
He was because Joe
I've heard
Rogan
him say that before.
Yeah, Joe Rogan was you're always right on this, and Alex Jones interrupted him, was I know, I wish I wasn't.
Yeah, he said the same thing on Steven Crowder's show. Steven Crowder had Alex Jones on. This was actually just about a month ago.
Right.
And he said that too. He's like, look, I wish I was wrong on this. He said, I wished it was true about what all of the liberal news media is saying about me, that I'm just this crazy wacko. He said, because then all these kids would be safe. He said, if I could be made a crazy wacko and all the children would be safe, he said, I'd be all for it.
Absolutely.
But it's not.
And I mean, it's interesting. I think it's good we're mentioning this again because at the end of the day, it's one of the most important things going on right now.
Oh yeah,
everyone's
it still
asking
is, and everybody's already stopped. Everybody's gone on to the next thing.
Yeah, which is the impeachment right now.
Yeah.
They put Donald Trump in a peach, and now he's rolling around Trump in the giant peach. That's it.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
I don't care. And even that, he's not impeached yet. Everyone's saying that. All the medias are saying Trump's impeached. I'm like, no, he's not. It's still got to go through the Senate. Why are they throwing this out here that he was impeached? Not even in a technical scale was he impeached. He's just not. Nope. So anyways, because that's what they're talking about is the impeachment instead of, this ring, this elite ring. And, I had a meme that actually messed me up earlier today. I saw it and it was, what's a taxpayer's purpose in life? And it was you fund the lavish lifestyle of elite pedophiles. And it's just what? Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's just exactly what we're doing. And that's terrible. And I've always kind of been against taxes because my government, as it stands, is doing a lot, if not everything, that I disagree with.
Oh, yeah.
Abortion, namely, that.
Yeah, we pay for that.
Yeah, we pay for that. We pay for the death of children. And now, not only do we pay for the murder of children, and that's a message I'd like to give to pro-choicers, too. It's this is the same government that's tangled up with this Epstein mess, and you think that's immoral, but you're not gonna say anything about
They're also
abortions.
tangled up with Planned Parenthood,
right?
And I know I've said it before, folks, but we have a working facility in Farmington now.
Yeah.
The old one was they didn't have the facility to actually perform abortions. What they would do is they would refer these women to Albuquerque. So now the new one, it's where that other clinic used to be. Forget the name of it.
All right.
But it's up there closer to the high school. And they did that on purpose. They got as close to the high school as they possibly could.
Right.
So that way they can get all these teenage girls coming in. It's within walking distance of the high school. And now it is a working facility. They have 3 exam rooms, quote unquote.
Right, quote unquote.
3 murder rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So they can perform 3 abortions at the same time if they have enough, which I don't know if they have enough doctors to be able to do it or not.
Right.
And the only reason I know this is I have been in that building back when it was just a doctor's office.
Right. So you're actually aware of the insides and everything.
Yes.
Even back before they did the kill rooms like they do now, there was such an evil presence in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Like that whole shopping mall, even now after that it's moved on somewhere else, that whole building, that whole shopping mall, like there's a vapor shop I wanted to go into, but I can't bring myself to actually go in there.
You know what? It'd be so awesome.
Evil tainted.
I know it's evil tainted,
yeah.
but to go in there and pray and get rid of that, make that someday our podcast building.
Right. Dude, we'd be hearing babies crying in the night. We'd be like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
That'd be terrifying. Hey, but no, that would be really sick. Good idea. Hey, I mean, maybe the rent's cheap.
Yeah.
Maybe we could.
Nobody else wants to be in it.
Yeah, maybe if we could start making money with this here podcast, we could.
Speaking of which, guys, if you want us to succeed, if you want our podcast to get better, if you want more content more often, like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us what you think, because we're doing this. I mean, me and John, we enjoy doing this, but we're doing it for you guys. We want to get that information out there to you guys. We want you guys to be empowered. Yeah,
we're running this so you don't feel alone.
Yeah.
And it's helped me a lot.
It has me too.
A lot of it, there's those times, even, long before this podcast, it's am I just shouting into a hole?
Right.
I mean, there's sometimes in this podcast I wonder if we are just shouting in the darkness, and that's where I'm at, and I think, it's really good when you advertise on MeWe and everything to get it rolling. That's where we see most of our population boosts. And you know what? On MeWe, I need to go ahead and hop back on that and go ahead and share it around. Well, I'm getting my new phone tomorrow, and that'll allow me to do a lot more when it comes to promotions, because my phone as it was would just fail every time. Right. My screen messes up and I look like a complete goof, so I haven't even bothered.
I was actually thinking about, and tell us what you think about this too, guys, but I was thinking about starting a MeWe page for our deal on
That'd be cool. I need to go ahead and go through with starting our Facebook page too.
Yeah.
I know I said I was going to, but I mean, it's all just procrastinating and all that good business. But it's also that's the thing too, is I haven't had a great urge to do it, because having a page up with only 3 people, it can be a little, and I even had on MeWe, my page was kind of one of the official things. It was come to Jonathan of Vigilance and you could find the podcasts and everything like that. And I had 2 podcasts up, but eventually I fell off of MeWe because I just couldn't figure out how it worked. But I also just didn't have the time. I've got this job that's really working me, and I was happy I was actually able to make it tonight to this podcast, because, well, I honestly wasn't actually expecting to be able to show up this morning. I completely forgot. I thought we put it off because it was Christmas. Which, by the way, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah,
that's kind of our post-Christmas, pre-New Year show.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. No, we're going to talk about like what we predict for next year.
Yeah.
Already, I'm willing to bet like I put at least $100 something bucks, because that's probably all I could afford. That Trump is going to be elected again, like especially now.
Oh yeah, I think that all the Democrats have done is ensure his reelection.
Have you ever seen the? Have you ever heard of Budweiser?
Budweiser? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Bud Dwyer. Bud Dwyer was a politician that shot himself in the head on live television.
Really?
Yeah, and that's pretty much what the Democrats just did.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, boom, right there. And that's... What other way can I put it? Like, they just shot themselves in the foot, head, whatever you prefer, and it was stupid.
Yeah.
It was dumb. And it was unfounded. And now that the Senate's going to be, like, subpoenaing things, here it goes. And that's why, like, Pelosi... I don't know, pick your demon, Lucian Pelosi. It's all the same legion, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, Pelosi doesn't want to do it anymore. She's like, wait a minute, this was a bad idea. Forget about it. Oh, that's fine. Whatever, you know what I mean? It's because I'm eating a chocolate bar. Sorry.
I was gonna say, he sounds funny, guys. He's. I made the mistake of bringing Snickers here. I don't know if that was a good.
They're delicious.
Radio show food.
They're delicious. Anyways, what was I on about? Pelosi doesn't want to do it because now that she can actually end up being like a defendant or.
Well, she doesn't. Okay, so. It's past the House.
Right.
But what she doesn't want now is if she allows it to go to the Senate, they can question whoever they want. Well, she doesn't want the Democrats being questioned because it's just going to bring out more of the horrible bad stuff that they've done.
Right.
And so she doesn't want that.
Who knows? Maybe it was all part of Trump's plan. His 4D chess we're always talking about.
Could be.
And I mean, that only goes so far. Like,
and then next year, here's my prediction: Trump's gonna pull out, and then, not pull out, but he's gonna be. By the way, here's Epstein alive. No, I was kidding.
Mm-hmm. Well, you talked about that, and I was thinking how awesome it would be because it was like, it was like the early beginning stages of this whole Epstein thing.
Yeah.
We were talking about it, and you're like, what if Trump, like, towards the end of his, like, thing here, where he needs to be reelected,
like, right before November.
Yeah. Brings out Epstein.
That'd be so crazy.
And he's alive.
That would be so crazy.
And he's like, and I know all the secrets, and this is what the Democrats are up to. And, like, it's a wet dream. Because Epstein was the link to crush the Democrat Party.
Oh, yeah.
It was, and that's why he's dead. Supposedly. And I mean...
It would be a bittersweet thing, because in order to do that, they probably would, like, grant him some kind of, like, amnesty.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it'd be a kind of a, because he would have gotten away with all the evil things that he did.
You think they'd have to grant him some kind of amnesty? Or
for him to play ball?
I mean, you could just threaten to cut off his egg dick. But I know they won't do that because it's all bureaucrats. Yeah, it's all bureaucrats, even for the Republicans.
And again, the Republicans, so they're not going to do the evil stuff. I mean, that's the Clintons. Which I believe more along the lines that the Clintons killed him. So I mean,
right?
It's a, like you said, it's a Republican wet dream to think otherwise.
I mean, who knows? Maybe Dan Crenshaw is up in that business,
I wouldn't doubt it.
I'm a Navy SEAL. I'm a Navy SEAL. Give us your guns. All right.
Yeah,
but he only sees half of the truth anyway.
That actually really, really, really made me disappointed in... Like, okay, so when I was a kid, especially in the 90s, because you didn't hear much about the SEALs. Now, I mean, you can watch Bud's training on YouTube. But the SEAL teams were like this, secret society of like superheroes,
Right. Super elites.
Military. They were superheroes.
Yeah, they were like the guys you'd see in the movies, the Ghost Battalion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like the ones where it's like 4 of them defended a small shack against 400 bad guys.
Yeah,
you know,
like against 400 Taliban.
Yeah, Talibans.
But it's like, wow, if that's like the caliber of SEALs, I don't know, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know some really cool SEALs. Not personally, but like read about them and I listened to their podcasts.
Well,
and stuff.
I mean, John McCain was a war hero.
Oh God! Don't get me started on him. But like, I mean, there are some true heroes. Leif Babin was an amazing SEAL. Jocko Willink, Chris Kyle. Those are heroes.
Yeah, you know, those are pretty cool dudes.
Yeah.
Though I sometimes get a kick, like, I mean, Chris Kyle, like, he was cool, but, like, he wasn't that much different than, like, much of, like, any other snipers. Like, he was cool, but, like, the fact that he got a movie over, like, all the other snipers in, like, U.S. history is kind of strange to me. Like, I mean, he's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's terrible he died. I understand it was a tribute to him.
Well, Chris Kyle even, when they asked him, because he still holds the record for the number of kills.
Right, yeah.
Not the longest, but the number.
Oh, okay.
And
I forgot that he actually had.
And before that,
record.
the record holder was the Marine, White Feather.
Oh, yeah.
Halfcock. Carlos Halfcock.
Okay.
And they asked him like what it was like. What's it feel like to like surpass Halfcock? And he was the first one though. He was actually very humble and said, "No, wait. I don't actually even put myself in the same caliber as Halfcock." And they said, "Why?" He said, "Well, because I did this with modern technology." He said, "You know, we had rangefinders, we had all this other stuff. Halfcock did it with a Remington, like
right.
Sears and Roebuck hunting rifle, and nothing else."
Right. And before him, like the other countries, you know, White Death and everything else. The White Death having 500 confirmed kills is like...
Who's that?
That was the Finnish sniper in World War II. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
So, the White Death, his name is actually Simo Heha. Something like that. Simo Heha, the White Death, of course Finland was kind of like under German occupation, so he served for kind of like the German army, but all he was doing was, because the Soviets were invading Finland, he was just keeping the Soviets off his land, pretty much.
I gotcha.
So he was just making Finland for Finnish people, you know. He set out with pretty much nothing but a bunch of rounds and a Mosin Nagant, whatever you want to call it, the Russian rifle. He sets out with this bolt action with just iron sights. And over like I think it was like 2 years' time, something like that, he killed over 500 Soviet soldiers. Confirmed, plus like it was like a rumored like 200 more.
Yeah.
And that's pretty effing nuts. Like I couldn't, you know, like to me right now, killing one. Like, if I were to kill, like, an enemy or something like that, like, just one, it would be, like, a huge deal to me.
Right.
This dude's sitting here with 500 plus. Also, he survived a bullet wound to the face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so in most pictures you'll find of Simo Heha, there's one before the bullet wound, where he's standing with his rifle, smiling at the camera, and one after he's got the Iron Cross, and his face looks like, you know, it got hit with a sledgehammer. But he used a lot of cool tactics. Like, he would eat snow to hide his breath.
Oh,
he would,
okay. Yeah.
Like, make his breath, you know, disappear and everything else like that. But I always kind of, like, got a kick out of it because Simo Heha, I mean, to give the Russians a little bit of credit. So, you know how Russia is, like, super cold?
Yeah.
Well, you know it's got to be really effing cold when the Russians start complaining about how cold it is. They were complaining about how cold it was in Finland. So, I mean, to be fair, Simo Heha, it's easy to hit still targets that are frozen solid. So, don't give him too much praise. jokes for days. But no, snipers are pretty cool. There's Vasily Zaitsev.
Yeah.
That was the one they made the film about, Enemy at the Gates.
Yeah.
Cool film, like a little more Hollywoodish than like actual scenario, but
The only thing about Zaitsev, I mean, he did have a lot of kills, but you got to remember it's Soviets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how many of those were real kills? I mean,
yeah, you know.
we'll have to make sure his numbers are bigger, comrade. Give him 100 more.
Well, I swear, it's like any recorded like sniper in Soviet history was like a legend. You know what I mean? You notice that? Like, you're absolutely right. They're Soviets, and so Vasily Zaitsev, of course, was like a super sniper in the Soviet Union. They saw him as like legend.
He killed thousands.
Yeah, he killed thousands.
With one bullet.
With one bullet. It ricocheted across Stalingrad.
Duh.
Soviet steel. But
7.62 by 54R go everywhere.
you just hear a zooming bullet. Oh shit! But because there was like a female sniper, I don't even remember her name, but like, yeah, the Soviets have like the World War II Soviets have like 12 legend snipers, quote unquote. That's like completely ridiculous. I'm not meaning to say that they were lies. Like, I mean, Vasily Zaitsev, there has to be some kind of merit to it. You know? But none of them top White Death. Like, no sniper today has topped the White Death. Like, that is not just nuts. That's like effing nuts. Like, that's a lot of kills.
I have to see like how many Chris Kyle had, but I do know that Chris Kyle had 75 kills in one day.
Damn.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, he set up this one place where the Mujahideen were coming in.
Mujahideen?
Yeah, that's the Muj is where they were in Ramadi.
Yeah.
And that's what they called him, was Muj. And he got like 75 kills, I think, in one day in just this one spot.
Right.
Where he looked down this street, and I guess it was like 500 meters out, you know, like all the way out. And
Ramadi, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ramadi.
Oh, Ramadi, yeah.
That's where
the devil of Ramadi
yes,
is what they
that's
called
what
him.
they called him, the devil of Ramadi. And they freaking hated him.
So it started out. They also put a $20,000 bounty on his head, which later increased to $80,000. This dude was pissing them the fuck off.
That's why it was so important. They got pissed off during all this when they actually came out with some of these SEALs' names. See, because the SEAL teams, again, have always been this like kind of a secret dark deal until recently, where they've started coming out with some of the names, and it's like Biden even came out and like said the names of the guys that killed Osama bin Laden,
right.
And it pissed the SEAL teams off because now these guys and their families could be like targeted.
Right.
It's like, no, when you're an operator in the teams, you are a silent professional. You don't take credit. You don't do this. I mean, Chris Kyle got like real popular because it was already out there, but
right.
I don't think he's the one that like told everybody like, hey, it was me that did all this, you know. But yeah, Chris Kyle he had quite a few kills. But again, and he said, and he was the first one to admit it, he had all this like modern technology, so he knew how to dope the targets like perfect.
Wow, so he does actually have over 150 kills. That's still pretty nuts.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot. Like, I would like to...
Yeah, I kind of wonder, you talk about this White Death. I was like, I don't know, 500?
Yeah, let me see.
With iron sights?
Kill. Yeah, let's see. White Death kill count. This sniper, known as the White Death, is credited with more than 500 kills. Simo Heiha, also known as the White Death, was a Finnish sniper who was credited with killing more than 500 enemy troops within 100 days! Never mind, it was less than a year. During the Winter War against the Soviet Union from 1939 to 1940. So it was barely... America wasn't in the war yet.
Yeah.
It was 1939 to 1940. Within 100 days, he killed 500 men using... let me go ahead and throw that up there, actually. This guy is nuts. I've got to go ahead and share that here. I'm going to go ahead and save this image. Simo Heiha. I'll go ahead and throw it up on the board so everybody can actually see it. because like this guy. I mean, damn, that's a lot of dead commies, dude. Oh, jeez. Why is it saving those? Hold on.
So while John's putting this up, so in Ramadi, Iraq, when this was all going on with Chris Kyle and all them, they were part of a SEAL team that Jocko Willink was the head of. He was the head of was called Task Unit Bruiser. So when Jocko came in, it used to be was Task Unit Bravo. Well, he actually took a cue from a Vietnam colonel, Colonel Hackworth, and renamed his unit because he wanted his team to have he wanted them to be proud of their team. And so he renamed it Task Unit Bruiser because it just sounded kick-ass. Man, that was in the Wild West days of Iraq. In Ramadi, where they had, where Task Unit Bruiser stayed in, I forget the name of the Army base there. See, because they were actually operating with Army personnel. And they were attacked daily.
Yeah.
Just even at the base.
Yeah.
Not going over the wire. But they were mortared and attacked at their base daily. And here's the picture of this White Death bloke.
There's the White Death bloke. He's actually a fairly short guy. Funny, just, one of those things. I just figured, there's his face before it was hit by the bullet. He's happy standing there.
Poor guy.
Yeah, but, even after getting that bullet in the face, he still trucked on, I reckon, I guess, in the cold you wouldn't feel it, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go. That was the White Death. What's going on about that? Like, there's a lot of legends out there.
Well, Carlos Hathcock was, I don't know how many kills he had, but he was an amazing sniper.
Right. Actually, let's look
Carlos Hathcock is actually who wrote the modern American sniper manual. All the stuff that he wrote is what they made the sniper schools out of.
Right.
Stuff like, how to make an approach and all this different stuff that he actually taught. There was one kill that he made by shooting over a river and hitting his target, and then that way they couldn't tell which way the bullet came from because of the roar of the river. And he did that on purpose.
Right. So I was trying to find out what the average person in the United States military receives as a confirmed kill count, but it doesn't look like there's any real statistics on here. Because I guess this person was just writing it's because the enemy usually grabs their dead before you can really get to them.
Well, that and just a regular normal grunt, take Vietnam for example. Right. It was hard to figure out how many guys they killed because again, you were just shooting into the jungle when you got shot at. So yeah, you might hit some of those some of the VC, but you never saw them.
Right. Yeah. No, you just shoot in the trees or burn it with napalm.
Yeah. The VC were dying, but you didn't see it. The only people that saw these deaths, and that's the reason why it takes a special breed of cat to be a sniper, is snipers because they actually saw the people dying. As a grunt,
right. You're just kind of shooting.
You're shooting in that direction.
Yeah, you're hoping to stop the shooting, and whether it was your bullet or your buddy's, you don't know.
Yeah,
know
exactly.
So,
you were all shooting at the same.
It's not like you're
guys.
out there. It's not like you're out there and you get a hit marker and it says "good kill, 50 points."
Yeah. They don't have health bars.
No, it's hardcore mode out there. You don't know. You're out there, you see a dude, you better identify the uniform.
That's right.
Let's just say that
because
we actually talked about blue and blue a lot this week. I noticed we kept talking.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing. Again, going back to Jocko Willink, is that was one of the first things that he actually experienced was his team had a blue on blue.
Right. Which has to be incredibly heartbreaking.
That was the first blue on blue So Ramadi, Iraq was the first blue-on-blue that the SEAL teams had since Vietnam.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't a SEAL that died. It was one of their Iraqi, the guys that...
okay.
Remember how I told
like
you
a militia?
What was the
AOA?
AOA, yeah. The AOA was with them. And the AOA guy ended up getting it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and it was through miscommunication because the Marines thought that it was Moosh in that building, and it wasn't.
Right.
It was the SEAL teams.
Right, so they kept, blasting it. You were talking about also the AOA, which don't misunderstand me. I think the use of, if you're out and about in a different country, the first thing you're going to want is to get the locals on your side.
Sure.
And I think that's smart, but also understand what resources you're willing to pour into it.
Also, you need to understand the limitations of your resources. And I think the brass didn't always understand that very well. I mean, the SEAL teams did a phenomenal job of working around it.
Right.
Regardless. In fact, they were kicking ass and taking names in Ramadi. By the time they left, Ramadi was safe enough you could walk down the street pretty much. They were beating them. But then all the rules changed after 2003. We're like 2005, 2006. 3 is when it all started.
Okay, all these rules started coming in, at least in the modern combat.
Well, 3 is when they went in. It was still the Wild West then. Anything goes.
All right.
So then, like 4 a little bit, 5 a little bit more, and then all the way to 6 is when everything got really bad. Now 6 is when the SEAL teams finally left Ramadi.
Okay.
And basically a vacuum went back in, and all the bad guys. You see, the Mujahideen are modern day ISIS now.
Yeah.
Same thing. Muj or ISIS.
Stupid Rambo.
So we were fighting Muj.
Right. Which is, I mean, again, it's hilarious that it's like, that all started, at least America's involvement in the Middle East, technically started in the 80s. I mean, we armed the Mujahideen.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe. Like, when it comes to foreign policy, I think Reagan had the right idea. I think I've mentioned that before. It's like, because, Reagan was like, oh, okay, so they're fighting the Soviets. Well, we don't want another Vietnam on our hands. We're not gonna send our boys to go help them, So, hey, Mooj boys. Okay, I'm gonna give you some guns. So he sends over a whole bunch of shipment crates, and he's an arms dealer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reagan was an arms dealer.
Yeah, we supplied them with Laws rockets so they could shoot down the IMD.
No problem, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Until they become our enemy.
Yeah.
And I mean,
we trained Osama bin Laden. The FBI, or the CIA rather. CIA trains Osama.
Exactly. I mean, most of those forces, at least the good, I'm not saying good as in moral good, but I mean like good fighters in like the Mujahideen, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. I mean, just throw a stick at one of these, was trained by an American force.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, well, America's over here doing the same things that the Soviets were doing, so let's just, let's fight them too, and it turns into an enemy. I'm not trying to justify, these jihadists, not by any means. I mean, I do think they are genuinely evil and lost.
Yeah, they are.
But, like, an evil and lost person, especially of such a primitive nature, like, don't get me wrong, these people are smart.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
and some of them are very fierce fighters. In Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership, they was talking, Leif Babin, there was a part where they got pinned down by, what's the German light machine gun? RPK?
The German one?
Yeah, is it the RPK?
No, the RPK is Russian. Yeah.
Russian.
Well, you have several. You have the PKP,
Russian,
which is like the big steel-looking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that one, and then you got the RPK. The RPK is
the belt fed, right?
It could be belt fed, or it could be. I believe the PKP is mainly belt fed, but the RPK is usually like drum mag.
Okay.
Is what I understand.
Probably.
So, like, the RPK, it actually looks like an AK.
Yeah. Well, it's an upside down AK is what it is.
Yeah, is what it looks like.
Yeah.
The PKP looks like a beast of a gun. Like, you know the PKP? By chance?
I guess I've never seen the PKP.
Let me go ahead and pull that up for you so you can...
Anyways, I'm pretty sure it was an RPK shoot, several RPKs shooting at him in this building. And it was funny because, that's an RPK.
Yeah, that's what I was... Yeah, so an RPK is just an LMG AK.
Yeah.
There you go.
So they had several moves shooting at him, and they was hiding in this building. And so, usually for the most part, not all the Mujahideen were like really well trained.
Right.
They run into some that were, and they typical warriors kind of started laughing. It's all, damn, these Muj can shoot.
Right.
Like they were laying down, like bullets were whizzing all around in this dang building and stuff, and so it got real hairy there for real quick.
Right, and I mean, I would like to see an alternate history, like where it was just that we gave the Mujahideen guns. They fought the Soviets, and we never got involved in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes me wonder if 9/11 would have ever happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, was America really much that way before 9/11? Yeah, they were, huh? Desert Storm.
Oh, yeah.
That was before 9/11. Me being a young one, it's all kind of a fog, those memories back then.
Well, the thing is, too, is we'd been attacked before that, too. The attack on our naval ship, where they blew it up.
Drove a boat into it.
Yeah, 20 sailors died.
I was actually on that ship.
Really?
Yeah, I've actually been on that ship that was bombed.
20 sailors died in that bombing.
It was interesting.
And then also before 9/11, the Twin Towers were attacked before that.
Yeah, it was a little van.
Yeah.
I drove under there and blew up, which, I mean, not
and
to be a conspiracy,
rackets.
but they also built kind of precautions in case that happened again. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't think they built precautions to anticipate a freaking plane.
They didn't build precautions from a 747 crashing into the side of it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they are pretty tall buildings. If I was the guy who built it, I'd be like, what if a plane crashed into that? But granted, they probably had precautions maybe like for a small little puddle jumper, but not like a full-blown 747. Like
Yeah, because the first attack, I believe, was another plane.
Yeah,
it was a little plane.
Yeah, it was like.
Yeah, it was like a Cessna or something.
Yeah. Damn.
But yeah, I'm not more along the lines. I know some people are not like 9/11 truthers.
Right. I'm not saying it's a big deal. Believe what you want. And this is what I always tell people with that, and I don't know if I said this on the podcast. But to get it out, I'm not a 9/11 truther. I have my own opinions on it. Like, my honest opinion on it, I'm not saying that it's not an inside job, but I'm not going to say it is either. But my honest opinion on it is so let's say the FBI or whoever was responsible, the Bush administration, comes out and says it on live television. Yeah, we did that. That was us. It would be on live television and it would be a huge fit for a week. We'd covered it on our podcast, and within a week's time, everyone would forget about it.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's just another drop of blood in an ocean of blood.
Yeah.
It's nobody would care. And that's crazy to think, but think about it. That's what I tell people. It would be, it would scroll by on the bottom of the news. It wouldn't even be a main thing. It would just be there, and no one would care because it's just a drop in an ocean of blood.
Right.
So that's what I tell people. But getting back onto it, what an interesting alternate reality if we never bothered with Saddam or any of that. Where we just stayed out of it because it wasn't our business.
Well, Saddam, yes, would not bother with him, but Osama attacked us.
I know, but I'm saying before 9/11.
Yeah.
If we could have made it where 9/11.
Now, I'm not saying we should have even went in for Saddam. We should have been in Afghanistan and found Bin Laden and just took care of it.
Right, and yeah, and just get it done.
Yeah.
And they tried. Don't get me wrong. I was reading this, they bombed a ton of different hills with a ship. They just drove a ship on the side of the ocean there and just started pinpointing different
started
caves
shelling
and stuff. Yeah, they just started shelling caves, and But even then, like, I look at it, and it's like, would Osama have been involved if we just...
Afghanistan's a big place.
I know. It's
and
like...
it is
yeah.
tons of caves.
Yeah. I mean, you're, like, shooting it. I mean, just take a pic, you know what I mean? Yeah. And... it's crazy. It's very clear that Osama was an operative. Like, he was smart. Surprisingly. You know, like, when we think of these enemies... Americans and like media and everything else, Republican even like produced, kind of shows these people as like primitive, sandal wearing, no good brain. You know what I mean? They look stupid like monkeys, but they're not. They're actually very trained. I mean, like at least in comparison in guerrilla warfare, it's basically Vietnam.
Look at the intricate IEDs that they made.
Exactly.
I don't know, these like pressure cookers and different stuff. It's like, you know, it takes some skill to make this stuff.
Well, I mean, here's this too. They have so we made a lot of our tanks pretty much like borderline IED proof. You know, what I mean? Like they could go off right under it and it would just bounce. You know, no problem. So these people being trained by the CIA actually started, and news travels, you know, of different technologies across these places because they need them to defeat forces moving in. And they've been doing this since the Soviets and before then. So it's like if one side out there in the Middle East finds out a tactic, it's going to spread around that side and also to the other side.
Sure.
And it's just wildfire.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So once we started making IED-proof tanks, they actually made a new type of IED.
Like a shaped charge?
What it does is it shoots like molten hot copper at the tank.
Yeah.
And once that molten hot copper hits the cold air in the tank, it just shrapnels.
Yeah, that's called a shaped charge.
Yeah, shaped charge. It goes right in, shrapnels, kills the crew. Which I was looking at that, I'm like, oh, what? You know, I'm like, we're looking at these people like I said, everyone kind of views it as like, how are we losing to this? Because, well, one, it's because we got the chains on our dogs. I mean, that's the only reason. Like, while they are intricate, they're not more powerful.
Right.
They are weak, you know, and... But looking back at it, it's like I get a lot of flack from conservatives because I do believe that the military are heroes, you know, for what they do, and I have respect for what they're doing. But I do think it could be spent on a more valuable, like, front. Like, I shared a controversial image, and it was like, this is what it would look like if the soldiers were fighting for freedom, and it was them basically sieging D.C., you know, and I strongly believe that. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, the jihadists out there are the poor little victims of, you know, imperialism. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, what is it to us? Mm-hmm. Oh, they have oil. We have oil here. Like, it's just the Democrats and liberals out here put so many regulations on it that we got to go ask brother Saudi Arabia, big bro Saudi, to go... you know, give us oil. But honestly, I've always seen it like this. If you got rid of Saudi Arabia, hear me out. Like, does this sound right? If you got rid of Saudi Arabia, I think all of that bullshit down there would stop.
Probably.
Because, I mean, that's who's funding it all.
Yeah.
You know, that's who's doing this.
Well, it's like I told you the other day. I mean, the very fact, okay, so, yeah, I don't really agree with the premise when we went into Iraq, but if we did, we should have took the oil fields.
Truly.
That should belong to us now.
It should.
Because, okay, so we're invading you. You're trying to kill our people. It's costing us money.
Right.
So we're going to use your oil to recoup our costs.
Exactly. Which should have been what we did.
Yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of people just shout, well, we're there for the oil. Well, then how come we haven't taken it?
Yeah, if we were truly there for the oil, we should have taken it and kept it.
And I mean, I do think that, yeah, the oil is, like, part of the blame, like, while we're over there in the first place, but it's not all of the blame.
No.
No, and...
I still think weird. Part of it was just Bush Jr. wanting to finish what his daddy started.
It could have been.
You know.
Right. I don't know, Bush was just... it seemed like nothing of, like, huge... I mean, yeah, they got Saddam... But we didn't get him. I mean, we just helped the whatever forces.
The Saudis.
We just helped, you know, them get him. You know, and that little cell phone Nokia video of him getting hung.
Yep. Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yep. Which, don't get me wrong, like, I love to watch that footage because that war just looks different. And it's only like, what, 20, 30 years ago now? Desert Storm? It just, like, you can tell that it really was the Wild West still. Like, there's actually this controversial video you can find of them, of our boys entering a building, and there's a bunch of, Iraqis laying on the floor and stuff, and one of our soldiers actually looks over, he's playing, he's dead! And that's when the dude, puts his, hands up, and he just scared the soldier so bad the soldier guns him, you know what I mean? Pop, 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 pop! Because they were all acting dead, which is usually a tactic used to ambush. Sure. It's happened before. But, it's one of those wars that are, we still had, that Vietnam, freedom kind of thing going on, where it's, a party for the boys. I mean, they weren't allowed to, be on leave in that area, but, it was open combat everywhere. Right. It wasn't, you're asking for permission for every bullet, you know what I mean? It was... You're there, you're scared, you know? Yeah. And watching the footage, it's nuts. Fallujah, that's the one war that, nobody talks about that battle because it was so bad. Yeah, it was intense. Yeah, it's one of those ones that, you talk to somebody who was actually in Fallujah, they got that stare. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
And the same with Ramadi. Camp Corregidor, that's the name of their camp that they were stationed. That was the camp that got attacked all the time. Camp Corregidor, I mean, living there was brutal. There was no showers. Corregidor, mostly it was a bombed out group of buildings. Okay. So, in all of Ramadi, it looked like freaking Stalingrad. Jeez. Yeah, it was just rubble everywhere. That's where they operated in. It was legit, crazy looking. Right. I mean, there was mortar fire daily that they received.
Yeah. Speaking of mortars and everything, Syria was, the whole conflict that unfolded recently with Assad and all those forces. Yeah, is fascinating in its own right because both sides. I mean, not so much Assad's had modern technology, but the FSA and everything, which is a side that I don't see why we're helping them. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we should help either side in that because it's literally so much of that's their shit going on that it makes no sense for us to be there other than the Cold War is still going on with Russia. That's pretty much it.
Just like I was telling you the other day, I think the president tried to pick in his mind the lesser of two political evils. I mean, they're both ragheads, okay?
Well, I don't know.
Hear me out on this.
All right, yeah.
They're both ragheads.
I don't know, man. Assad's pretty secular. Just saying.
He's still a raghead.
Nah, he's that's the whole reason that everyone was
okay, let me put it another way. When I say raghead, they're both evil. Okay?
That's fair. All right.
Okay? So you got one evil here and you got the other evil here. Yeah. What he did is I can't back this guy because allegedly, quote unquote, which he did. All right. He used chemical weapons on his own people. So as Americans, we can't back somebody that does that. Right. So we back the other guys just for political reasons. That's Precisely. The only reason.
Yeah, but when it gets to that, it's dude, just get out, you know, because it. What? This isn't Nazi Germany, which I mean could be argued, but I mean, this isn't a clear slate. Like you said, it's two evils. Yeah. I mean, the FSA harnessed what became ISIS. Sure. It's all the same, ridiculousness. And then ISIS became, our number one enemy. There's a map that was, that actually showed all the factions in Syria. There was 20 different belief systems warring with each other. Yeah. It was nuts. And I mean,
they have fought each other. Yeah. For centuries.
Yeah. To put it even lightly, if the world was around longer than it has been, it would be for that much time.
Yeah,
you know?
well, they've fought each other since biblical times.
I know, like they've been around,
and they're never going to stop. I mean, Scripture has showed that they're
right.
There's never going to be peace in the Middle East.
So I'm gonna see if I can find one of those jerry-rigged mortar weapons that the Syrians used. That is actually mentioned in Modern Warfare, the recent one.
Oh, yeah?
Let me go ahead and pull this image up for the audience. So basically, this is going to go here. That should be fine. Let me go ahead and get my Google and just drag it over here. That would be an easier thing to do. Boom. So I got the image up on the screen now. They took a propane tank and attached it to like what I would describe as like the feather on an arrow.
Mm-hmm.
They did this on a propane tank, and of course to the right there on this photo, you can see their system of delivery.
Yeah.
And of course this worked just like a big mortar, and it made a big boom.
Yeah.
It was nuts. But there's so much stuff like this. Someone described... Someone who was over in Syria that I talked to, like a veteran, he said it was like Mad Max. He said he saw cars with like armor on it.
Sure.
He saw all kinds of stuff, and he mentioned how common it was, these propane bomb launchers, that it was like ridiculous. Like they actually were fairly accurate with them. And just looking at that, I'm like, this is some crazy crap. And we could do a whole podcast talking about like the insane weapons used in Syria. Because there's like a whole forum post. I was looking through it. It's fascinating.
Well, I've seen like photos of like recoilless rifles bolted into the back of like Toyota pickups and
Right.
all this weird, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, though, you know, on the other side, you got to hand it to them for their ingenuity. Just like the Viet Cong, you know, they had
Crazy.
all kinds of like cool ideas. Like they noticed, you know, these Americans were shooting these Laws rockets. Well, these tubes, man, what can I do with these tubes? So what the VC would do is they'd take the tube and they drill a hole at the bottom of the tube, and they'd put a pin in there and attach a tripwire, and they'd pull the pins on a bunch of grenades and fill this tube up.
Mm-hmm.
So then when Mr. American comes running around and trips that tripwire, all the grenades fall out.
Exactly.
So they used our own stuff against us.
Right. And I mean, that's the whole concept of guerrilla warfare.
Yeah.
I mean, and what we're running into, quite literally, because we talked about, you know, imagine just one soldier against a British line regiment who stood in a line, and it was a modern day soldier versus that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The modern day soldier, I mean, would probably come out just fine, you know, and what we're looking at with that is precisely what we're going into. So our modern military has our training, our expectations, you know what I mean? They have their training, their expectations. They get over there, and the enemy has the freedom to update it and change it at will, you know? And that's been the case in pretty much every war since World War II. You know, like the Germans, they had their own mannerisms. The only real guerrilla warfare in like World War II was like shown by the Soviets, or like Warsaw, stuff like that against the Germans, and so on and so forth. But like, yeah, today we're looking at guerrilla warfare,
Right.
of like dudes hiding behind buildings. And I mean, like, I found this footage back in the day. I think it was like Kabul or something like that. It was called like Kabul 24. Have you ever seen that documentary?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a bunch of missionaries taken hostage. It was interesting. It was like in Kabul during like, I don't remember, it was like early 2000s. But I think they showed a little clip in there where it's just a single, you know, insurgent pops up from behind a wall, pulls a grenade, throws it on top of a Humvee, boom! Humvee's like windows go out and like it just stops. So that's what you're looking at, you know, because our soldiers wouldn't do that.
Right.
You know, they're not trained in that concept, and they're not. They usually have like an honor system that's like arguably, I think it's a nice thing we have it, but sometimes it gets us killed.
Sure.
You know. Goodness. Virginia. So 90 out of 95 states have claimed sanctuary for the Second Amendment.
Yep.
The governor was saying, they're going to have checkpoints with like ATF and stuff to stop vehicles and ensure that the law was being enforced, which the militia responded, as you said, like, yeah, go ahead, is basically what they're saying. See what happens.
Right.
Which is already, like, Virginia, nobody's really much talking about it. I mean, we heard about it on the talk shows for the first time here, like today.
Both talk shows this morning, the Glenn Beck program and Rush Limbaugh, they both had guest hosts today because both of those guys are still on vacation because of the Christmas, New Year season. All your bigwigs always do that, and they always put, like, some, like, smaller named guy on there to fill in.
Right.
And both of them mentioned Virginia, but it was really hilarious because they were very, very, very careful not to use the R word. That's revolution.
Right.
Because every time, like, a caller would mention it, they'd be like, we have to be very careful what we say and how we're talking about this. And it's like they were scared to death of saying, like, anything like
remotely,
because, and okay, so in one sense, I can kind of get the reason why they were doing it is because it's not their radio show.
Right.
Okay, so, I mean, they're just hired to fill in.
Right.
So, I don't know, maybe, I still don't think Glenn Beck, especially Glenn Beck, but I don't think Rush would even mention.
No, he probably would have, I mean, like...
Don't get me wrong, I like Rush Limbaugh.
But he wouldn't have liked on that. And I think that's a little sad.
It
is.
Like,
I mean...
Well, I've
if
always
you do
considered
that, it's like you're unhinged. It's like, no, we're just talking.
I've always considered myself right of Rush Limbaugh.
Well, right. I mean, even myself, I'm right of Rush Limbaugh. I'm right wing of... And I mean right wing as in... There's a lot of misconceptions of what right wing means because the left has actually construed it.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, you have... So, like, the real political spectrum, if you go to the right, all the way far to the right is anarchy.
Right.
And all the way far to the left is communism. And a little bit before communism on the left spectrum, you actually have National Socialism, which is Nazism.
Well, that's why I like the concept of both of these, like, whenever you have, like, somebody that gets elected, like, further to the right, is being a pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that pendulum swing because, like, for example, now we got Trump, which he's not, like, far right, but he's way further right than Obama was.
Right. Well,
okay? So you had a far left president. Right. And so now we swung back to the right.
Right, but not very far, I won't be honest.
Not very far, but I still would say way further than Obama.
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse, he's, like I said, he's
not going around. He's not going around on an apology tour.
Yeah, he's definitely right wing.
He truly does love this nation.
I'm still kind of like, when it says, like, calling him more right wing than Obama, I'm like, just remember, he has enforced more gun regulation than Obama did.
He has.
All right, which is where I'm like, hey, watch it,
Yeah.
Because that's our side. Like, we're getting shot in the back here. Like, guys, chill out. Especially with the whole... It didn't go anywhere, but the whole red flag incident, which we made fun of Den Crenshaw today for that reason.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Because he was a douche. Not only that, but he was like, well, y'all don't want to talk about it. Y'all are being babies. Well, no, we just don't want to talk about it because there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
There is no ground to give. There is no understanding moment. This is something we do not give up, not an inch.
Right.
Our Constitution makes that very clear. Our revolution that started this country makes that incredibly clear. And what's going on in Virginia right now, like I said, 90 out of 95 cities, not an inch.
Well, and that's, when Crenshaw said that, going back to that real quick again, it just really, it amazes me because most guys that I've heard interviewed that or that were SEALs and stuff were, and then still are, whatever. Actually, the ones I guess that I've heard were because they don't talk about anything if they're still in the teams, but they had a very strong like sense of patriotism. Like that's the reason why they wanted to be SEALs. They
Right.
wanted to fight for our country and for our country's constitution.
Right.
And then you got Crenshaw, that was is an ex-SEAL, shitting on our constitution.
I know.
Basically,
it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like, wait, huh? It was like it's exactly, and it kind of makes me want to look at like the official record. Is this just another John McCain? Like everyone said he was a Vietnam War hero, but he was actually just a little bitch. You know what I mean?
well, I know for a fact he was a SEAL, and he
Right.
like there's like records of him like the reason he lost his eye was from an IED.
Right.
But it makes you kind of wonder, like, what kind of SEAL was he? I would just
Right.
really love to like hear like his fellow SEALs like what they thought of him.
Right.
Like,
If he was
he a douche? I
Right.
don't know.
Because that was just a weird thing, and I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we're taking it a little far. Maybe he was, genuinely wanted to talk about that, but it's like, what did you expect to happen, Crenshaw? Like,
Yeah.
dude, you're a conservative. Everyone on the conservative team thought you were like the best conservative in the house.
Yeah, and this is something, he talks, we need to talk about it. This is something I will not give an inch on.
Yeah, no, this is nothing we need to give an inch on.
Yeah.
They're like, people, how many more people need to die in shootings? I'm like, all of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not going to happen anyways. And even, it's such a ridiculous thing. Everyone's freaking out about these shootings. Our actual gun crime rate is still really low in comparison to other countries.
Sure.
Or just our crime rate in general is still really
Our
low.
violent crime rate.
Yeah, our violent crime rate. I mean,
That's something it's an important differentiation there that people
Right.
don't realize. People say, well, there's less gun crimes in other countries. Well, maybe so gun crimes, but not violent crime.
yeah, I mean,
you got in Britain, now they're pushing for knife control
right.
because there's all these people getting stabbed.
I mean, next, English are also pushing for acid control because people are
Right.
getting acid thrown on them.
And that's a Muslim thing again.
All right. Pretty much. I know I don't much talk about Islamic forces and everything. It's because everyone knows they're... I mean, even the left... The left is these people... I wrote this in my... I wrote this somewhere. I don't remember what, but... America has always been the pioneer of human rights.
Mhm.
Like, everyone... All these leftist SJWs and everything are, like, complaining about how America is behind. No, America's ahead, and it's still ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, America was among the first to actually allow so much as a gay couple,
Yeah.
to be a thing. Mentioned on television at that, like one of the first. I mean, I know that like English did kind of beat us to that, but like, I mean, America was the first to like fight a war to end slavery. You know what I mean? At least in the colonial type that was
Yeah.
related to us, because there was so much of this. America invented, social justice and
Right.
championed it and made it into something good. Like Martin Luther King was a great movement, and of course you get to see, what would have been a modern day social justice warrior shoot him in the face. It's just
Yeah.
exactly what happened to him.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
mentioned Martin Luther King. So, guys, just so you know, John made this really awesome intro
I
that
did.
he was going to put on the podcast, like an intro deal,
Yeah.
like with music and like different sound bites and stuff into it. This sounded really cool. It had Joe Biden. It had several different things. We got flagged for that video for quote unquote hate speech.
Yeah, to put a list of like what was in that video that I made. It was an unlisted video that I made for, like, I was going to use it as an introduction, so you guys kind of have, like, a countdown and stuff like that to look forward to. So I had Martin Luther King, a sound snippet from him. It was the beginning of a speech where he says, this is the greatest stand-up for, like, freedom that this nation ever is going to have. And then it flows into the Apollo moon landing recordings. which flowed into Joe Biden talking about his hairy legs for a little bit of a comedic effect. And then I say a few things like, this is Jonathan of Vigilance with War Spirit, and so on and so forth. And then it's a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're broadcasting. That somehow resulted in hate speech. Now, I don't know any of those things, that would result in that. I think maybe the bots and the algorithm, maybe the reverb. I listened to it. I didn't hear anything that even resembled a racist remark or anything.
The only thing I can think of is the left, when they hear a right-wing person talking about Martin Luther King, they assume, and incorrectly, they assume that we are talking about Martin Luther King in a racist demeanor.
Right.
They have to. That has to be what it is. Because in their minds, they think, well, you're right wing. You can't let Martin Luther King.
What's funny about that is that Martin Luther King was right wing.
Yeah, and he was Martin Luther King was an awesome dude. Yeah. And if the black community would actually, because they always champion Martin Luther King, rightly so, but they champion him, but then go do the exact opposite of what his speech was talking about.
Right.
Talked about, I would rather judge a man by the content of his character, not the color of his skin.
Exactly.
And then we allow in this nation, what do you call it when you get into a college just because of your skin color?
What was the name for that? I know that Richard Nixon, that Republican, was the guy who actually introduced it.
He's the one that introduced it.
Yeah, the most racist president ever, other than Cheeto Man Trump, apparently.
Yeah.
The left.
Affirmative action.
Yeah, affirmative action. Yeah.
So, affirmative action is racist.
It is. It is.
It is racist.
It is. I mean, we were talking about that Asians aren't allowed in schools. Only a set amount of
because
Asiatics.
so Asians are so for the most part so smart because their family structure they really push their kids to work hard in school. Yeah. And so the majority of Asians in this nation actually their median household income is higher than whites. And the colleges only allow a certain number of Asians in the colleges because if they didn't do that, it would be predominantly Asian.
Right, yeah.
And so they keep them from it.
Which is racist.
Yeah, that's racist. And then also, they make sure that a certain number of blacks get accepted, even if their academics are not as good as whites or Asians.
Right, which I look at it, and I think I kind of understand what they're getting at. Nixon doing that had to be even more, especially more controversial than it is now.
Right.
Because when Nixon was running and was president and everything, racism was a problem in this country. It was bad. People were racist for pretty much no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Other than, the South was still pretty much bitter that it lost the war. Sorry, Dixie fans, you lost. Not to disrespect, Dixie and everything. I think there is a beautiful culture there, but anybody who's holding on to, the whole racist...
the South will rise again.
It's silly. It's just bite the bullet, you lost, and honestly, I think it was better that way. I kind of follow General Patton with that respect. Is I don't really give a hoot in hell for someone who loses and laughs. You know what who cares? So I just don't care about losers, and especially with Americans. It's well, you guys got your butts kicked. Shut up. And I'm like I said, I think
the Civil War though. They try to make the Civil War all about race.
It's not,
and it wasn't.
The South,
it was about taxes.
Yeah, the South was getting taxed unbelievably. So they decided to secede, just rightfully so. And I think
Lincoln
they did have it right.
Added that whole thing about race
and slavery and everything
to politicize it to where people would be on the Union side.
Pretty much. and I understand that. Like, I understand that it was a propaganda term, but I mean, it's 100 and something years later. But my point is, like, if there's someone who's racist that happens to listen to this, I mean, it's like a unicorn these days. Like, to actually meet someone who's genuinely prejudiced.
Yeah.
Like, it's rare.
Yeah.
Like, nobody I've met in a long while. I met one person in Bloomfield. He's a Nazi, like an actual Nazi.
Yeah, you just tell me about that.
And it was like, what? You know, it was like a unicorn. Like, it's not like an every. You know, the SJWs treat it like it's an everyday thing. Like, people just walk around with swastika flags or something. No, that doesn't happen.
Well, evidently, YouTube thinks we are.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's just the whole lie, too.
Yeah.
It's, they're making it seem like there's this rampant prejudice pandemic when there's nothing.
No.
There's nothing. I mean, yeah, people still share jokes that would be, you know, maybe off of not, you know, that wouldn't be social justice oriented. That would be maybe a bit off tone, but, you know, they don't mean anything by it at all.
I long for the early 90s when you made fun of each other and it was okay. You had South Park making fun of blacks and whites and all this stuff.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point. Is like, people need to look at things in the way that South Park does. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, I've made jokes for pretty much every race, religion, creed, everything. I've joked about white people. You know, it's like, you know, because, you know, one of my favorite jokes going around now, I mean, God forbid I get another strike for hate speech, is it was, you know, the African American community will be like, damn, that's a fat ass, you know what I mean? Whereas the white people will like be like, look at the shitter on that critter, you know what I mean? It's just, it cracked me up. I was like, that's funny. That's, you know, like, I don't care what, you know, it's not a race thing. It was just, it was genuinely funny. Because, like, yeah, white people would say some shit like that.
Yeah,
you know? It's like, what the fuck? But, you know, it's like people get so uppity. But here's the thing.
That looks like two baby coons trying to get out of a gunny sack.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, white people say some ridiculous thing. And it's just, get over it. Get over it. And of course, you know, if a white person feels injustice, you know, if they feel like they're being attacked, you know, which is a very rare thing, you know, just like it is for any other race to be attacked at work, it's a very rare thing. Mm-hmm. At least, I mean, it's common to hear racist jokes at work. I mean, that's just going to happen to anyone. Maybe not like a big, like, Californian institute or something. I doubt it. But, I mean, anywhere you go here, left, right, wherever, you're going to hear racist jokes. Yeah. It's just going to happen. Sexist jokes, misogynistic jokes. I mean, it's just a part of life. And
yeah, you can get over it.
If you don't think it's funny, then just don't laugh. You know what I mean? Just move on.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you could say, like, you know, that wasn't really funny. But, like, to lose your shit and, like, be like, think that someone was made victim by it, you're a little retarded. I'm just, you know, I'm going to put that out there. Maybe, oh man, I might get actually a strike for hate speech because I said the R word. Excuse me.
Damn. We're done.
We're done. We've really got it underway now. And who knows, I'm probably under the microscope of YouTube right now because I already had that warning for hate speech because I posted a video that was glorifying Martin Luther King. So, I mean, let's just say this. Maybe YouTube is ran by Nazis. Maybe they hate Martin Luther King.
Maybe so. Maybe that's it.
That, or they just don't want people to be reminded of Joe Biden's hairy legs. Because it was disgusting to think about. Maybe that's why they banned it. They were doing everyone a favor, trying to rinse that from our memory because it was so terrifying.
My hairy legs.
Yeah. That turned blonde in the sun.
Yeah.
Dude is off his rocker. But that's, again, I think Trump's going to win. Hands down for 2020.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, if we get Biden as his opponent.
Could you imagine?
Dude, I actually hope primary? We do. Because that is going to be comedic gold for our podcast.
We'll have to rename the podcast to, like, what shit did Biden say today?
We'll have to have Biden's Corner. We will have a weekly Biden's Corner.
Right,
It'll be great.
Yeah, that would be really funny. We could really work with that.
Yeah.
Oh, what was I saying? Everyone should look at things like South Park does. Because back in the day, they made fun of Christians and stuff. And the Christians were like, what a terrible show, and it should be taken down. Mm-hmm. But in due time, Christians learned, I think, a big portion of that from South Park was like, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah.
You know, and that was important for Christians.
And it was
and
real funny.
since then, you haven't really heard Christians complain about television shows.
Well, and it was real funny, like, even in the 90s, like, I had a youth pastor that, like, just thought we were horrible because me and my buddies were watching South Park. He's like, you do realize they're making fun of Christians on that? And I'm like, yeah, but they make fun of Muslims, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they made fun of Muzzies, like, the whole time.
They make fun of
everybody. Okay, so, yeah, they made Jesus out to be this, like, kind of hippie pothead guy on there, and, like, whatever. I didn't find it offensive, personally, because for me, I know that's not who Jesus is.
Right.
Okay? I just found it funny. Because we were laughing at everybody.
Right. That's the whole concept of comedy.
They had this, they had, I'll never forget the one, they had supposed to be like Wheel of Fortune, where you like did the, like filled in the name, and it's like, and what they wanted was, something about look out for the naggers.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. He's like, I can solve the word, but I don't think I should say what it is. And the cameraman's like this black guy, and he like looks out like all these big old eyes, you know.
Like, are you
are you really gonna say it? And they're like, and he's like, and he acts, but he legit says it.
Yeah, don't say that.
This was on. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it. But he legit said that on Comedy Central.
Right.
But back then, it was just funny.
It was.
This white guy saying the N-word was like hilarious.
Right.
Me and my buddies died.
It was. And I'm sure there's people who watch that who have the colored skin. And it was very clear that the show wasn't like approving that behavior.
No.
It was pointing to like someone in a predicament. Like,
yeah.
You know, what does your mind go to? It wasn't so much a criticism of a race or anything. It was just a genuinely funny joke.
Well, and they had stereotypical people on there, like the chef.
Right.
Chef's chocolate salted balls.
Right.
And he always like had the ladies, you know, and around him and everything.
Right.
It was hilarious.
Well, even Chef, who was the voice actor for that? Chef?
Oh, I never like knew who the voices
Either
were.
way, Chef, the voice actor got offended. Like, they made fun of Obama one episode.
Oh, really?
And he quit. And
are you serious?
Every episode, ever since he quit, they actually use old clips of the voice and like remix it to make his voice.
I did not know that.
Yeah, like with the new episodes of South Park.
That is so stupid.
Well, I think it's so funny. It's like, oh, that's what makes you quit.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, they made like an Obama joke and now you're done. Like, that was too far.
Yeah.
Really? Like, you've been with this show since, it's one of the longest running shows in, like, when it comes to animated. It's other than like The Simpsons, it's the longest running like animated show in the United States. It's old.
Yeah.
South Park has been
and
around
they've had
for
so
a
much
while.
over the top stuff, like
Controversy.
Like, wow, that made you quit.
Yeah, like South Park has been the center of attention sometimes just out of the blue. Like, they get flack, and sometimes it's because they're willing to experiment.
Yeah.
They're willing to see just like what gets them. And the funny thing about it, that's why it's been around so long, because it will bring up something sensitive,
on purpose.
On purpose. And you know what I like about South Park too, and this is what I like about comedy as general. We actually talked about this, and we talk about it every stream. It's the same thing with memes, is that it's a criticism.
Yeah.
And it's not so much a criticism for a specific person's side or ideology. It's just a criticism of like, well, maybe we shouldn't take that as seriously as we do.
Right. And in order for comedy to actually be funny,
right,
like when you're criticizing something or whatever, making fun of it, there has to be a hint of truth in it to make it funny.
Right.
Okay? So, for example, we know the stereotypical white guy, like, oh, golly, gee whiz. That's funny!
Right.
Because it's funny.
You can hear someone saying that.
Like, I lose my crap whenever, like, Chris Rock would, like, do his white guy
Ned
voice.
Flanders.
Who's
that
that?
whole character, Ned Flanders from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Howdy doodly, neighbor. Like, seriously, that is a whole, like, Christian...
Yeah.
That is a Christian white straight guy.
Yeah.
In a suburban town.
Yeah.
That's a character.
Oh.
Yeah.
That 70s show. The mom?
Yeah.
She's freaking hilarious. Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. Yeah. No, it's... and we're not offended by that. And here's the thing too: is I found that most people who are campaigning for social justice are white rich kids. You ever notice that?
Yeah. Well, look at so the majority of people that like have a like huge problem with the Cleveland Indians baseball team, and then of course the Redskins football team, are white people. Every native I've actually talked to,
they don't give.
They
a
don't
shit.
care.
They're like, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, cool. We don't care. They don't care. I mean, I've heard most of my jokes that I've gotten about like specific races are from the specific races that it came from.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to mind saying it because they are that race.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to hear it from.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they think it's
the
hilarious.
most racist black jokes I've ever heard was from black guys.
It was from black guys.
It was like, oh my gosh!
Yeah, oh my god. You know, like, I couldn't say that.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know, they can. And they think it's hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
It's because they're not babies. Most people you run into that are full-grown adults, I mean, before the age of millennials, aren't babies.
Yeah.
Like, they think that's funny.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they didn't when they were freaking 8 years old. Maybe they felt offended when they were 8.
Yeah.
But, like, now that they're full-grown, they're like... you know, like, it's just one of those things.
Well, still, like I said, in the 90s, like, we all laughed at each other.
Yeah.
It was just... Saturday Night Live was still funny, too. Like, they had all this, like, different controversial stuff. And, you know, Saturday Night Live has they have a track record of making fun of, like, all presidents until Obama.
Right, and there was nothing.
And then it was just kind of like...
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also just the turn of the century, too, where it's like...
Yeah.
I feel like if Obama was president in the 90s, they would have... Yeah. They would have made fun of him.
It's just they had comedy gold with
this culture,
Clinton.
I mean, yeah, where someone will just... It's like you can't do anything at all. I mean, race-wise or anything else. Like, even if you comment on a class, like, if there's a joke about poor people...
Triggered!
I know. If there's a joke about, like, poor people, it's offensive.
Yeah.
You know, anybody who might be a little bit disadvantaged. You can joke about rich people, though, because they're not at a disadvantage. I'm like, well, that's not really, that's not really comedy. It's pandering.
Yeah.
Like, see, and that's what South Park really gets at, that comedy has no side. Comedy isn't something that you can, like, pick and choose which side. If your joke is not funny...
Well, see, and that's what's really, really sad in these big cities. Like, when I was younger, I always, like, would see, like, these, like Comedy Central would always, like, do these, like, specials where they had, like, these comedy nightclubs.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I was like, dang, I want to go to one of those someday. That would be sick.
Uh-huh.
You know, you have your dinner, you get to listen to, like, different comedians, like, when comedy night comes up. And just laugh your butt off all night. Those bars that are doing that are actually dying because nobody wants to go there anymore because they're afraid of offending people and getting
you'll be trying to get your career started in comedy, and you'll get shut down 2 shows in because you made a joke. For example, Steve Harvey. Is that the guy who does Family Feud? The colored guy with the mustache?
Yeah,
he's an excellent comedian. Just like
he's
Seinfeld.
hilarious.
He's excellent.
Yeah.
Because he understands that comedy has no side. Now, granted, I do believe that he probably has made a lot of jokes about Trump and everything else. He's on the bandwagon, and a lot of those jokes
and he
aren't
is.
that great,
Who cares?
But he's an excellent comedian. I'm going to give him that. Or at least he used to be. And I think that, like, hatred can really cloud a comedian.
It can.
Like, I mean, that would be the same thing if a comedian went up on stage and was like, Obama, huh? He sure is dumb. Everyone would be like,
Yeah.
That'd be it.
Yeah.
But, like, that's basically what I hear from a lot of modern comedians is like, Cheeto Man, Trump's an idiot. And everyone's like, it's... At least the crowd is, but if you were to see it for what it is, it's not
That's
that funny.
Unfortunately what these comedy clubs have come into is, like, all they're doing is just pandering now.
And so, like as I was saying, Steve Harvey, they had it was like Seinfeld has this show, actual Jerry Seinfeld. He has a show where he goes and has coffee with celebrities.
Oh, okay.
He does. And he had one with, like, Steve Harvey. And Steve Harvey was saying how, like, one time he made a joke about, like, I think it was, like, driving drunk or something like that. And somebody who was listening was like walked up to him very angrily and was like, my son died in a drunk driving accident. You can't make jokes like that. That's not funny. Stuff like that. And he was like, well, everyone else thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Sorry. And that was that. And, they had Jerry Seinfeld, also an excellent comedian. It was just, he was like, yeah, you can't, things like that are bound to happen, but it's everyone thinks that they deserve to be heard sometimes, and it's not really the case. I do believe everyone has a voice and has an opinion, and even their family is allowed to have that opinion too. You know what I mean? Like, if you're the father of a household and you don't think something is funny, and everyone else is laughing at it, you have the right to be like, hey, that's not funny, we're not going to laugh at that.
Yeah.
Or even if you're the mother, same thing.
Right.
I'm not trying to be, specific to gender or anything like that. But I just mean, leadership-wise, to the people you have authority over, that's fine. But to scream bloody murder at a joke, out of your own will, to actually attack the comedian over... so that's actually what I'm getting into. It's to actually attack someone doing something rather harmless.
Yeah.
You don't think it's funny, well then, shut it off and keep your family away from it, and it won't affect you.
Right.
Defense. Just play defense. But a lot of people, they think the necessary action to take is a complete offense.
Right.
Is instead of just shutting it off, they're going to watch every episode this person makes, criticize it, attack him or her, or whatever, until it's canceled, and they won't stop at anything because they're so filled with hate. And speaking of comedy, the Joker film, towards the end, kind of mentions kind of an interesting...
How comedy's subjective.
Right, and that's not really the point of the film at all. The whole point of the film was rather just crazy people need help, is kind of what I got from it. That's pretty much all I saw from it. I didn't see much of a political thing.
I didn't either. I saw that, and it is a travesty. I think that's the reason why the left didn't like it, is it is a travesty in this nation that we have so many mentally ill people that aren't getting the help that they need.
Right.
But, okay, so what I get from comedy, too, when I wish more people would do this, like you talking about, being the head of the household or whatever, say, well, hey, we're not going to laugh at that.
Yeah.
For example, if I'm watching something on Netflix or whatever and I don't like it,
yeah,
I turn to something else.
Yeah, pretty much.
For example, I'm not going to watch Amy Schumer because I don't find her funny.
No.
Her talking about how slutty she is and how many guys she slept with, I just don't find comedic gold.
Seth Rogen. Actually, I want to mention this. I actually mentioned Seth Rogen. He's the director of The Interview, which was a film about North Korea and everything.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of movies. He I don't know if he directed it.
Oh, is The Interview? Is that the one where they
they killed
Kim Jong-un actually banned because
he tried to, and I think that was just kind of a ploy by Sony.
Oh, okay.
To advertise it, but it could have. Yeah, no, Kim Jong-un.
I've never actually seen the movie, but
it had some funny moments. But Seth
Rogen
Rogen
was mostly dumb. So
yeah, well, you're looking at Seth Rogen.
I'm not a big fan of Seth Rogen.
Yeah, exactly. So Seth Rogen. Do you remember Sausage Party? It was that
cartoon.
cartoon.
I've seen it. It's
well, so
I
Seth
didn't even
Rogen,
find it that funny.
It's not. But everyone I talked to the average person, the average American that I've ran into, I asked them about Sausage Party, and they're like, "That's the funniest thing ever." I'm like, it really wasn't.
In my opinion, they were just trying to
be as foul as possible,
as gross as possible, to get a laugh, and it's
well, and it was disgusting to me too because it was it was marketed almost like a child's film.
Yeah,
which is I kind of get
you got a lesbian taco, and I was like, oh come on,
and that could be funny. I'm saying, Monty Python did, gay characters.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I don't know what Monty Python did differently, but it wasn't preachy, I think was the thing.
Yeah.
But Monty Python, I think, is gold tier, god tier comedian, just with his writings and everything else like that. And or if Monty Python was a show or a person, I don't know. But whatever.
I think the cool thing with Monty Python is with all of his comedy, you actually kind of had to have a brain to get the humor.
Exactly.
You had to think about it. And you also had to, look in the background, like the very first of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. One of the first things I, laughed my butt off when me and my buddies were first watching it. is there's this lady in the background randomly beating this cat up against
Yes.
the wall.
Yeah.
And when you see it for the first time, you're like, wait, what? I
Yeah.
told my buddy, I was like, hey, rewind that. And he's
Yeah.
like, what? I was like, did you see the cat? No.
Yeah,
He's
no.
like, rewind it.
When I was
So
a
we
kid,
rewound
that was
it,
the
we
first
did it,
thing I noticed.
And we
Yeah.
died.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
It has nothing to do with the story. It's
I
just this
know.
lady beating a cat against the wall.
Yeah, right. Which like a lot of people are like, oh my god, that's terrible. But don't get me wrong, it's a little puppet cat. It's not like.
Check that listening out. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it is straight up pouring outside.
Is that what's going on?
Yep.
Is that what's going on?
I think so.
That
Or is that the
air conditioner?
Oh, maybe that's the. Oh, yeah. I think you're right.
That's like
Man, I swear I thought that was rain.
I looked outside. I was like, "There's nothing coming down, dude." You're tripping me out. Anyways, but yeah, no, Monty Python. Like, I always refer to him as an example because yes, it takes a certain type of. Only smart people laugh at Monty Python. And I'm not saying like you have to be a rocket scientist, but you have to have like a.
You have to be
You have
smarter
to
than the
have
average
taste.
bear.
It's like you have to have taste, and
Yeah,
it's like
that's a good way.
you have to have taste. And the thing what I mean by that, it's like music as well. You have your modern rappers, which are like, I like broomsticks, and that's the whole lyric. And you're just sitting there. I don't enjoy it, and it's not. I actually saw a bumper sticker the other day. It cracked me up. It's not that I'm too old. It's that your music just sucks.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. And I am kind of an old soul. I like
Because,
Johnny Cash, Bob
well,
Dylan, but
I like older rap.
yeah, me too, dude. DMX, X gonna give it to you. What? I love that.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Run DMC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they're
it,
good.
even that has a taste. It has character to it.
Yeah.
But we're looking at something. So Seth Rogen's comedy.
Even Tupac.
Yeah, Tupac. Which I listened to him not a few months ago. Actually, I'm not huge on rap, but the old rap, 50 Cent even was good.
50 Cent.
50 Cent.
Sorry.
Excuse me. I gotta say it like a white
Dang
person.
white boy.
It's cultural appropriation if I say it like that. Which is another thing. It's like, really? Anyways, as I was saying with all these tastes are subjective. Seth Rogen is the comedy for the imbecile. Because it's like, it's the same joke. Like, if you've seen The Interview, if you've seen Sausage Party, you've seen both films. They're both the same. In concept, maybe not like with like screenplay, but it's like the same film, just two different like atmospheres.
Okay.
Because like one's based in a supermarket, one's based.
So they're
in
both just foul.
They're both just dumb. Like let's take this straight character and make him have to shove something up his butt because that'd be really funny and it kind of makes him look gay. That's boring and that's not really. I mean, that could be funny, but the way he does it, it's not.
Yeah.
There's no nutrients to it.
You can make something like that funny. Like,
Right.
Have you ever watched European Road Trip?
No.
Okay, so these college guys decide to go like across Europe after college,
Right. Yeah.
and they end up in New Amsterdam.
Oh.
And so you can do all kinds of stuff. They got the
Yeah.
red light district. And
Yeah,
all
it's
this
pretty
different
much
stuff.
like Vegas in Europe. Yeah.
Exactly, extreme Vegas.
Yeah.
'Cause you can do literally anything you
Yeah,
want.
like
to.
that place.
Well, they
is just
end up
anarchy.
going to this place called Vondersex.
Right.
And so they think they're going to get it on with all these ladies and
Right.
stuff. Well, this huge mountain of a woman comes in after, like, they're already, like, in
Right.
these handcuffs, like, on this wall.
Right.
And this huge mountain of a woman says, okay, I want you to have this word. It is your safe word. And she's all, like this Scandinavian thing. And they're like, what? And then she's like, are you ready? And she pulls out this huge dildo. And they're like, no! And they can't say it. And then they afterwards,
Right.
they're like standing together. Like, these two guys are driving. They're like, we won't speak of that ever again.
Right. It didn't happen.
Yes.
Well, and
That was hilarious.
some people misunderstand me when I speak of American comedy. Like, on average, what I see from the average American like Hollywood release is that it's aims to be gross, foul, and just silly.
Yeah.
But like I have to give praise because there are some films that are genuinely funny. My folks don't have a sense of humor, but they actually laughed at The Hangover. which means
That's a hilarious movie.
Which means that it had effort in it, because trust me, getting my parents to laugh is hard.
Right.
You know, especially my dad. But my dad loves the Hangover series, which I mean, I would have never. You know, that's not like his cup of tea at all. Like, my dad is hardcore conservative Christian, you know, but he turned on The Hangover and he actually was laughing his ass off, you know. And so that right there, you know, I'm not saying that all American, like, comedy is bad, but there has to be effort to it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like I was saying, Seth Rogen and everything else like that, there is a point where it's like, I actually made a post where I was joking with Ever about... it was like Seth Rogen in the board meeting for his next movie, and it's like, how about we make a Christmas movie, but like the tree is made of weed, and then like everyone just starts laughing, and the ornaments are dicks, and then like everyone just like roars in laughter, and it's like, that's not really that funny, you know? It's just it's uncreative, and but again, you know, talking about music and everything. You know, like, I love Bob Dylan, I love Johnny Cash. My favorite musician of all time, he's kind of an underground artist. His name is Mark Lanigan. I've mentioned him a few times, but he's my favorite artist of all time. But, like, it's all taste, you know, and that's what I mean. There's just so much of these modern things coming out, and it's not that, you know, we're old or that we just have a different taste. It's just that there's actually no character to it at all.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so, like, I actually talked about that. Like, you know how, like, an architecture of a building? So, you have your industrial buildings and everything like that, and it's clear that they're just made to be a use.
Yeah.
Like, they're made to be used
They're
for...
utilitarian.
Yeah, they're utilitarian. They're not designed to be beautiful or anything like that. But you're also getting to, like, houses. You know, like, the suburban center, right? There's no character.
No,
there's none. It's
cookie cutter houses that all look the same.
Yeah, it's cookie cutter houses that all look the same. And what we're seeing with that, you know, it's rather funny. You know, everyone, at least like millennials, like myself and everything, I found that the most unique thing you can do is be normal. And you will stand out like a sore thumb, because you go to a convention of like people my age, and it's like everyone's going so far out of their way to look different that they all look the same.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all the females have, like, bright neon-colored hair, and it's short, and they have piercings, and they all look like a different skin of the same character.
Yeah.
But, like, I walk in, and I'm just wearing, like, you know, I guess, you know, give me that. I wear button-ups, like a lot of millennial soy boys do, but I do like my button-ups, you know. Leave me alone. But, you know, like... They all try so hard to look different that it's laughable. But the moment someone walks in with, like, a suit or something, like, something that looks nice, it's like, what are you doing? Like, who's that guy? Yeah, who's that guy? And it's like, well, he's just dressed normal.
Well, again, South Park has actually mentioned this already and done really good. Have you ever watched the South Park episode where they do the difference between goth and emo?
No.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Oh, Butters gets in on it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Actually, I have seen pieces and parts of that. And
it is hilarious because, like, their whole thing is like, the whole, like, goth and emo are the same thing.
Right.
But, like, they pretend like it's so, like, something so different. But then also, like, they both of these groups of people are trying so hard to be different. And they all look the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every time.
Yeah.
It's a guarantee. And so, like, with music and everything, like, pop is the big thing right now. Like, as it has been for, like, the last 30 years, pop has been a big deal.
Has it been, like, the major, like, most popular?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I find funny? When I was in high school, of course, I've always been a country fan, even when I was a kid. But, like, when I was a kid, like in the 90s, if you liked country, you was way uncool.
Right.
But I didn't
you're
care.
Still uncool. I'm just
actually,
kidding. Country. So
it's actually made a huge surgence in like pop culture.
I know.
Stuff.
Well, here's what I mean. I actually mentioned this to my girl because she turned on a pop song. It was a pop country, and I said, "This sounds like shit." You know, I'm sorry. country, like, I'm not saying that, you know, like, I'm all for people experimenting and doing different things, but like the modern country band, I can't tell one difference from one artist to another. Same with Christian worship bands. All of the males, all of the female, whatever, vocalist wise, they all sound the same.
Yeah.
They all sound the same. Like you turn on what's the Christian worship station here? I don't.
KNMI.
KNMI. You turn it on, they'll have 10 different artists with like male vocals. All of them, I couldn't tell the difference. Yeah. I was like, they all have the same sound to them. They all have the same instruments. They all have the same lingo, accents. None of them are making it theirs.
Well, and even when I was a kid, even like Christian music when I was a kid, and I like a lot of different ones, but the sad thing about a lot of Christian music is Christian music, they always try to sound like some secular band. Mm-hmm. You know, and there was even a thing that used to be, okay, so what was the store that we used to have here that was the Christian store that you could buy Christian music?
Do they not have it anymore?
No, it's been closed for a long time, bro.
What? Like the Christian bookstore over by First?
Yeah. It's been closed.
No.
It's been closed for like 4 years.
No. You're right. Dude, that's sad. I should have stopped by.
Everybody stopped going there. Everybody buys their stuff online or buys like music from iTunes.
Fair enough. And
nobody buys CDs
let's be
anymore.
Honest, that store really was overpriced sometimes.
Like, well, they were way overpriced.
Yeah.
But they had this thing there, like saying like back in the 90s, like Limp Bizkit was
called the
huge.
Christian Bookstore? Wasn't that what it was called?
Family Christian.
Family Christian Bookstore.
Yeah,
that's right.
So they had this thing like for example in the 90s, I liked Limp Bizkit. So if you like Limp Bizkit, then you could well, this Christian music is like what's yours? I'm like, well, if you're comparing it to this, I'll just keep listening to what I'm listening to.
It's like,
and they're like, well, this was godly. I'm like,
it's like, well, that's just a copy. You know, it's like that's just.
They're not original.
Yeah, they're not original. And I mean, my folks used to go to a church, and that was back in the day. And what they would do is actually make their worship songs that they would sing at church after popular songs all the way back to like the 60s.
Yeah.
Because it was funny, I was listening to, do you know the band Fish? It's an old Vietnam era band.
I guess I don't.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember the lyrics of like their big song. It's 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. Next stop, it's Vietnam. Well, they rewrote that song in the Door in Farmington there, which is now called the Potter's House. It's a different church, but it's in the same building back in the day.
Okay.
And they wrote it to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, what are we fighting for? And then it was like to get to heaven's door, and it was just like it kind of makes you wince a little bit. You're like, and as Hank Hill said, and I don't know if it was actually him, but there was a meme. It's he's patting a guitarist on the shoulder because it was a Christian person trying to do like heavy metal. Mm-hmm. So don't get me wrong, I love, there's some awesome Christian heavy metal bands out there, Impending Doom, Sleeping Giant, stuff like that. But for the most part, for the longest time, like DC Top and all that, let's be honest, it was a fad. Like, they're okay.
DC Talk is not metal.
No, I'm not saying it was metal.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, copying secular music, What would people say if they thought it was true? That it was a Jesus freak, with that one. And it was good music, but it was copy, it was trying to sound like secular music.
Now hear this. Don't diss my DC Talk.
Okay, boomer. But Cody's gonna like knock on the door here and be like, you know what? We're not friends anymore, John.
Cody, I will help you beat the crap out of him right now if you'll come.
But I mean, you can't
dissing my DC Talk, boy.
All right, but like actually, to give DC Talk credit, they have way more personality than any modern Christian.
Oh yeah, and they were okay. So they might have been trying to like
they
sound
were good.
Like others,
Don't get
but
me wrong.
They were like their music, like the way they rapped was original.
Right, which I mean, Impending Doom, For Today, Sleeping Giant, my favorite Christian bands, which are death metal, core metal, different types of metal. It's like, yeah, they're trying to like appeal to like the Satanists and like heavy metal, but the thing about it is like it's actually really good, and that you know
like
with DC
1,000 Foot Crutch.
Yeah, actually,
I like some of their stuff.
Dude, 1,000 Foot Crutch is actually really cool. Skillet, I used to like, and then I kind of grew up, and I was like, wow, this is pretty shit.
I like Skillet's older stuff. I don't like their new stuff.
Oh no, their new stuff is terrible, and
then,
even their old stuff is kind of like. Have you ever listened to Linkin Park?
A little bit.
Okay, back in the day, you remember how it was.
I was
everywhere?
never a big fan of Linkin Park, but I hung around a lot of my bros liked it,
and they all listened to it.
Yeah,
and I mean, you mentioned Linkin Park. So back in the day when I was a kid, it was like the 2000s. Linkin Park was big, and I loved their music. And then I grew up and I listened to it again, and I just found myself like cringing. I was like, this is awful. Yeah. I was like, at the time, it was like, wow, that's really
cool. What
about
POD? You ever listened to POD?
I'm afraid not. I've smoked it.
Not peyote.
I have not smoked peyote, by the way. But
POD was a Christian metal band in the 90s.
The father, I call him the father of Christian rock. His name was Larry Norman. And I have yet to find an artist like him. I grew up listening to Larry Norman. That's what my father loved. Is like the only guy you can get him to listen to music-wise is Larry Norman. And he's a Christian rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And it's actually really cool. I actually played him, I believe it was like on the either first, second, or third podcast. I actually played him as an outro.
Oh, okay.
And he kind of brought, he has a song called "Why Should the Devil Have All the Good Music?"
Yeah.
And it's actually a really funny criticism because he has long hair, which again in like 1960s was when he was big. 1960s, 70s, and like early 80s was when he was at his prime. He's dead now, but. He, he's like, everyone was talking about, it's like, why does he have long hair? Why is he in a rock and roll band?
Right, those are like all bad things.
Yeah, and the song is actually really catchy, and he has a sense of humor, and he makes every song that he has written his own. My favorite quote that he actually says, he says it, and it's in his first album. He wrote a song called, I believe it was called, Sweet, Sweet Song of Salvation. And he said, churches used to love singing this song until they found out it was written by me. And so, it's like artists like that where there really is no copy, that it's like amazing. 1,000 Foot Crutch is really cool. Cody used to play them a lot back in youth group, and I actually loved them. I actually asked like the name of the band. There was a lot of really cool bands back then. But that goes into the taste.
Yeah.
I can't stand Christian radio. I love worship music, but I can't stand Christian radio. Because it's, not only is it like the same song over and over again, but it's also like...
They don't ever have any variety.
There really isn't.
Like
they should play some Larry Norman. You have never heard anything
I straight
like
up told... and that's back when he was still working there. Emmett Fowler?
Yeah, I remember Emmett.
Emmett was like, because he mentioned one day, because he saw one of my posts or whatever on about Glenn Beck and stuff. And he's like, why aren't you listening to the morning show? And I'm like, I'm sorry, bro. I said, KNMI sucks. and he's like, what do you mean? I was like, you guys play the same thing over and over and over on a loop. Dude,
oh my God. What's that one song called? Literally, oh my God. Hold on. It's,
like, KNMI is literally, like, for baby Christians.
I know.
And once you kind of, like, get, like, a little bit further in your spirituality, you're like, nah.
Well, I mean, it's like... Yeah, it's like going to a place and you eat there for the first time, but you keep getting the same freaking thing, over and over again. It's this type of, like, French fry dish. And you're like, well, what I could really use is like a hamburger now. I've kind of gotten used to the French fries. That's nice. How about a hamburger? And they're like, sorry, all we serve is this one dish.
You know what I've found, what I've noticed with Christian radio groups, and this goes for like a lot of different Christian radio, like, because even, and they're a little bit better, the one in Albuquerque is actually a little bit better about it than KNMI is.
Yeah.
But still, they're afraid to do too new a stuff, I think, for fear of backlash. Mostly of the boomers.
Right, yeah, right.
That's not Christian. Christian. It doesn't sound Christian.
Well, I mean, that's where Larry Norman comes in. Like that, like that's something I did love. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of this new Christian stuff that I'm kind of an old school Christian myself, and I think a lot of stuff that comes out is a little eerie. You know, I'm like, I don't get behind that. You know, because not so much in music, but like, but I mean, like the music, it's so nutritionless sometimes. It's like, okay, well, let's go through the Christian, and the first one will be like, God is good, okay. And then the next one will be like, God is really good, okay. And God is pretty good. And you keep going, it's like, okay, we get it, he's good, you know. And then, like, there's something I actually wrote a criticism, because I noticed something disturbing about a lot of Christian songs, and that thing is that it's singing about we. Singing about our walk, and what, like, a lot of songs are like, me. This is my God, and while I'm all for that, like, my God and everything like that, it was like, you know, I will not be afraid, and it's kind of like a self-praise is what I was realizing with it, and it's like, you know, me, this is what I'm doing, and this is about me, and this is a chant about me, and I was like, that's kind of a worrisome deal. I was like, well, you don't really see that with like the old hymnals and everything. You see like maybe a little bit of mention of like the purpose, but in the end, it's about God.
Well, and I think a lot of times too with Christian music, so they try to make this cross of worship music and what they're trying to copy is secular.
Right.
And in my opinion, the two should be very, very separate.
They are.
You should have worship music, and then you can be a Christian band,
right?
But you have to be able to sing about like normal life stuff,
right?
Like you'll see all these different ones, and it's always got to be like God is good and all this stuff. Right. It's like, well, what about love? I mean, why is it like you don't hardly ever hear any like Christian music like talking
you don't hear
about
any romantic Christian songs.
Yeah. And believe it or not, John, you know, Christians can be romantic.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold up. You're telling me that Christians have sex?
Hey guys, Christians have sex and make babies. Don't tell anybody. And also, married Christian couples, have sex just for fun.
Some boomer went, boom!
Yeah, no, somebody out there, like, just crapped themselves. Yeah. You know what's so funny is actually, I work with pretty much everyone in my branch other than one other person is like completely secular.
Yeah.
And, or like one of them is a pagan.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because he was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, you Christians, like, even though you're married, you can't do, like, you know, you can't have, like, this type of sex or whatever. And I was like, pretty sure if you're married, you pretty much do whatever you want. As long as you're not disgracing, you know, God or anything like that. You know?
Well, it's so funny, like, what secular people, like
that
view
they think,
Christians as.
It's like,
well, even, okay, so my coworkers, and actually, I think it's, like, outside of Christianity that they even have it worse because, you know the joke, like, supposedly, like, when you marry your old lady, you know, quote unquote, you know, in the secular words, she stops putting out. Supposedly, you know.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, all my coworkers always talk about that. It's like, yeah, get to have my birthday sex or whatever, you know, like it's like once a year or something. I'm like, it's not what I run into personally. No. And they're like, all my coworkers think I'm just full of crap.
Right, yeah.
Like no way. I'm like, we have a good relationship.
There's a very, like I mentioned him as, he's like a philosopher, counselor type. His name is Mark Grunger. He's a Christian.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's excellent. Yeah. Fantastic counselor.
I've heard a lot of... He was actually on Focus on the Family last week.
He's a fantastic man.
Yeah.
At least like when it comes to speaking.
Yeah.
Everything. I don't know much about him personally, but I've listened. He does this like 3-hour thing where it was like talking about married couples and all that. And he's like, why you should marry young. And a lot of Christians are like, no, wait until you're like 35. He's like, that's stupid. He's like, because it's like, well, now your best years are like wasted, and now you're like,
Yeah.
it's like you don't get to experiment. You got everything like figured out. You know what I mean? And there's no fun to be had. There's no adventure.
Right.
And he kind of went into it, and he's a funny guy too. Like one of his catchphrases for his podcasts back in the day was, he was talking to young ladies, and he was saying, well, don't just give yourself away. I mean, if you're going to have it, at least charge for it.
Yeah.
Is what he said. And he said, because at least if you charge for it, you can give to tithes on Sunday. Which, immediately, I was like, this guy's a genius. I was like, he's not afraid to say anything. And, that's right there is where I started to learn about him. But he, getting back on kind of that topic, mentions, like, well, if you stop having sex in marriage, no wonder your marriage is falling apart.
Right.
And he's like, so many people, like, they just, like you're saying, like, these guys will be like, oh, I get my birthday sex. It's like, once a year?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not married, and I've never really experienced that fully. I'm not afraid to admit that. I haven't really had, full-blown sexual intercourse. But the thing about it, it's like, if I was married, I'd think it would be very healthy. I mean, there's a whole reason to the marriage. And Mark Grunger puts it politely, or not very politely, just bluntly. It's like, the whole reason for marriage is sex.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, without sex, there would be no point for marriage.
Right.
At all. Like, period. And that's what he says. He says, I know it doesn't sound romantic, but that's the truth. He's like, without sex, there's no point for marriage. He says, if you're wanting to marry somebody, but you're not going to have sex with them, it's like, what's the point?
Right.
He's a very good philosopher. Back to like Christian media. What was it? Christian films are interesting. The only really good Christian one I've seen, I think, was like Hacksaw Ridge. That's kind of an untapped thing anyway, because it's hard for them to gather the profit to actually make a film that's really good. Like,
well, Passion of the Christ was good.
That's a good movie.
That's a Christian film.
That is a Christian film. It's the best one.
But I agree with you. Like the majority of
it's
Christian
hard to criticize Christian
corny.
films. Though. It's hard to criticize them because they're low budget.
Well, and here's the thing. I get a kick out of, and it's usually my mom does this, and bless her heart, I love my mom. Don't get me wrong, but she's like one of those Christians, like, and there's other Christians out there that do it, like. They'll see like that it's a Christian film,
right?
And then they'll be like, "Well, it's a Christian film, so you got to give them a break." And it's like, "Well, why?"
Right.
They should be
held to a standard.
They should be putting out a good film
because like they're turning people like, "Oh, these people are silly," because they're producing crap.
Yeah.
And they expect that leniency, and I am for judging everyone pretty much fairly in that regard. It's like I don't care if you're on my side. If you're producing crap, I'm gonna criticize it,
Yeah.
If your stuff is crap, like I've done this thing. My mom, I mentioned how I went to an old like Southern Baptist church in Florida once.
Yeah, yeah.
And I started waving my hands and like put my hands up in the air.
I bet you your mom was ready to strangle you.
My mom pinched me so hard, I sat down as I was supposed to. Because they were, they had this old dude on a trumpet that was like, it sounded so bad. Like, this dude didn't know how to play a trumpet. I don't know why they even had him up there, but... And then they had an old woman singing in, like, old woman voice. And it was like an old hymnal. And I just put my hand up and I was like, hallelujah is what I said. And that's when my mom reached over and she gave me that mama pinch in the side of my gut. And I instantly collapsed. I did it again Christmas Eve because I went to Crossroads.
Oh, no.
And don't get me wrong, Crossroads is a pretty cool church, but they have some ass for worship music. Like they're people, at least on Christmas Eve.
What brought you to Crossroads?
My uncle goes there.
Oh, okay.
And so I went over that way because my family was over there for Christmas Eve. They had a candlelight service.
Yeah.
And I went over there and they gave me a bracelet. And anyways, the music was terrible. And I got out and I just started singing Gregorian Catholic chants. Just to mess with them. Because, that's part of, that's pretty much that church, as far as I know, like, aligns with my evangelicalism. I mean, for the most part, it's a little more modernistic than I'd like, but whatever. I'm not going to criticize it. Some people need that. But I started doing Gregorian Catholic chants out front, and I was like, do re mi, re mi, do re mi. And my mom, because she was complaining about how much they actually had us like stand up, sit down, stand up, and she was like, we might as well just went to the Catholic church. And that's when I started doing do re mi, and she socked me, and she's like, cut that out. I will criticize churches, and it's not, I do believe in kind of a, what do they call that? Kind of a unification. Like, yeah. I'm not going to agree with most of what Catholics put out, like, because they're so different to me for the most part. But if they have the same concept that the only way into heaven is Christ, then we can be friends. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think there's a fine line in worship, like,
right.
As far as, having a good quality worship team, I think is paramount.
It's important. Good, yeah. All right.
But I think some of these like bigger churches have turned in kind of like into like a rock concert.
Yeah, it's like go to your rock concert on Sunday, and it's a show. That's what like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, this is my excuse for not going to church. Listen, I've been procrastinating. I'm a lazy sucker. That's why I haven't been in church. But something that has driven me away from a lot of churches is I feel like the Holy Spirit is blocked in favor of putting on a good show. And me having done like 2 sermons in my time, I actually found like the best thing to do, even like, it's like, just stop the show, cut that out. That's why I love the evangelical tents. I've never been to one. I've never been to a revival tent, but I hear all these stories. And I mean, it goes into just the simple dude in the front with the book of hymns, just start singing, and they might have like a band or whatever, but it's down to earth. And I'm not saying like to just put up, and then like when churches do that down to earth stuff, it's like a show again. It's like, look what we can do with an acoustic guitar.
Right.
And it's like there's music, there's praise, but there's no soul. You don't feel it. And I mean, I felt it a few times, like over at camp a lot. Like the moment I really start to feel it is when, it's just the vocals, and like the kids, my age, teenagers, would be singing this like from the bottom of their heart, and that brought in the soul,
Oh, so like a cappella?
I'm not saying that it has to necessarily be a cappella, but I think that helps.
Did you know that a cappella is an Italian word?
No, it sounds like it.
Yeah, it's Italian for ain't got no piano.
Ain't got no piano. So, and there's actually a lot of Christians who believe that music, I don't know what sector of Christianity it is, but there's a lot of them that believe that instruments are from Satan.
Well, yeah, there was a Baptist church that I went to back in my younger days. There was this girl that was kind of sort of dating, and she wanted me to go to her Easter service.
Oh, yeah.
And I told you about these people.
Yeah,
They were, you want to talk about a racist church. So my buddy at the time, one of my best friends, his name's James, I'm not going to say his last name, he's Spanish.
All right.
And so me and James go, and we get to looking around, and man, you want to talk about pasty white church. I'm like,
right.
This is interesting, because I'm used to, we went to a church where there was like natives.
There was like not
Spanish.
Even shades of white. It was all the same.
It was just white.
It was like all the same color of white.
Yeah. It was like, holy crap. Because this girl that I was like dating, she was a like white blonde chick.
Which, don't get me wrong, I like me my white blonde chicks.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's nothing wrong with that. No, I'm not saying.
I know that, but yeah.
I mean, but like they were all like
the same, yeah. It's like one of us, one of us.
And it gets really, and they were the same way. Like you weren't supposed to clap,
Yeah, you weren't supposed to.
And so I was like, they were singing, and I started like clapping like this, and this girl looks over at me like,
we don't do that.
We don't do that.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying that... And I also find myself also criticizing myself because I feel like maybe I've made some people feel like that I think every church has to align with my viewpoint. I am not a perfect Christian, and I'm sure that I'm going to learn that a lot of my views on God are flawed as I just continue with my life, as every Christian will.
Mm-hmm.
But there is some things like that I do have kind of a stern position that it's like, why does this church that I'm in, like, like with the Southern Baptist types like that, it's like, why are we singing like God's dead?
Yeah.
It's like we're acting like God just turned belly up,
Like we're
croaked.
still at a funeral.
Yeah, it's like we're at a funeral, and as Larry Norman said, to quote him, "I don't like those funeral marches. I ain't dead yet."
Right.
And and that's where, like, I get, and I get where a lot of people are coming from. The biggest argument I ever had, because Baptists are close to my ideology, and even evangelicals, I have I have different viewpoints than most of them. They have, a lot of people really freak out and think it's like disrespectful to run around the church and like praise like during that.
Oh, really?
And I think that, and don't get me wrong, like I think some people might be like putting it on as an act, but
well, as long as they're not putting it on as an act, as long as they're not trying to like get attention from people, I don't think it's a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
But
And
the problem
I think
is,
it's like, if that's the way you
when
praise,
people are doing it just to get the attention.
yeah, I mean, if that's your way of praise, please, because the whole point of praise, it's not to put on a show. Yeah. Because you can tell when someone's just putting on a show or when someone is genuinely there.
Because I remember this lady back in the day when I was a younger kid, and I truly believe in the gifts of the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
But
I will never doubt that. Yeah.
But this lady, so I think it's important that if you're going to speak in tongues, that somebody else translates it.
Yeah.
So this lady would speak in tongues and then always translate herself.
Right.
And, I don't know. I always kind of felt like, as a kid, I'm like, she's just doing that to get attention.
Right. Like, I mean, even Timberline does some cool stuff. Like, I mean, actually, Timberline, over at Timberline, I actually really like a lot of the people at Timberline. There was this really cool deal, because a guy, as far as I know, I mean, I can't say for fact it's all about faith with that, or just skepticism. There would be a woman or someone in the crowd would actually start speaking, in tongues, and it was usually an old fella that would translate what it said.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because it was like...
See, now that's cool because
like
somebody else
Sunday.
is translating.
Absolutely. And, when it comes to Christianity, it's... I think that's a good idea too. I'm not saying it's necessary, but like at the same time, you're right. It's weird when it's just one person, and it's like, is
it's
that
the
really
same person like every Sunday, and it's like,
yeah, and it's like, okay, and I mean, like,
and this lady was known for like wanting attention,
right?
So it's like,
I mean, at least, just keep going to church, though. I mean, I'm not meaning to deter you.
No.
But
that's why
like,
I would never say anything to this person.
Right. But I mean, and, people ask me if I've spoken in tongues, and I would like to say that I have. I would like to say that, but I genuinely can't tell. Or if I was just peer pressured into gibbering, because I didn't understand, you know what I mean? And... it was like at camp, and everyone was like, "You better do it," and I was like, "I don't know," and I felt something, but I don't think that's my gift.
Well, I think a lot of times, and AG is actually kind of bad about this. I think that they think that everybody should be able to speak in tongues like all the time, and I just don't think that that's the case.
Not at all.
I think that is one of the gifts, and I have spoken in tongues.
Right,
but it's not something that I do like every day.
No.
When I've really, really, really been like, when I really, 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 really feel the Spirit, like over someone, I'm praying something. Sometimes I have.
Right.
But it's not something that I do all the time, and see, because God's Word talks about the different gifts of the Spirit. Okay.
Right.
The gift of interpretation, the gift, all these different gifts.
Prophecy, everything.
But then they say the gift of tongues. So what that's telling me is the gift of tongues is one specific gift.
It is, and I don't know if like AG really pushes, the Assembly of God. If that really pushes that so much that it's like...
Well, they don't because, see, in order even to be a minister in AG, you have to sign this thing saying you have spoken in tongues.
You're kidding.
No.
That's ridiculous.
No. And I don't necessarily think that that's right.
I don't think it is either. I mean... Because that kind of goes into, like, that's not really anything that seems like the character that I've come to know.
Like, it'll say, are you filled with the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues? Like, that's like even like to go on an AG missions trip.
Really?
That's a question.
You don't...
AIM trips. You've heard of AIM?
Yes, yeah.
That's one of the questions.
That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, man. Like, some people, like... I'm not saying... I believe everyone... could receive that spirit or that gift, excuse me. I believe that like everyone has the possibility to receive that gift, but at the same token, like, you have to understand the Holy Spirit is an amazing thing.
That's one of the only things I've always kind of like not really agreed with AG.
I've had my own beef with AG before.
That, and also every AG pastor I've ever met always think that the tribulation and all that stuff, that Christians aren't going to have to like
deal with
it. And
we don't know.
I think it is complete. No. That is complete and utter bullcrap.
Right.
Because Revelation clearly talks about the saints having their heads chopped off.
Yeah.
If we didn't have to deal with it, we wouldn't be getting our heads chopped off.
I mean, it talks about a lot of stuff that Christians are going to have to deal with in the tribulation.
Yeah. Well, John, that's actually just allegorical.
Allegorical.
I actually have had a pastor tell me that.
All right.
I'm like, no, that's bullcorn.
Right.
I truly do. I am more of a mid-tribber. I don't think that we're going to have to deal with the whole thing. Okay. I think there's going to be a certain point to where we either all get killed off or...
So this is what I pretty much have seen it, because Revelations kind of hints at there's going to be a point where God takes his hand completely off the earth.
Correct.
And that's going to be the final tribulation.
And that's where I don't think we will be.
We won't be there for that.
Because it talks about God looked upon the earth and still no one believed in him. So, at this point, people are so hardened and so evil that are left.
Right.
All these things that are happening, they still will not acknowledge that there's a God.
Right. And, I mean, that's going to be pretty evident. And the only way that's going to be possible is like, we have all these, like, millions of people just disappear or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, like, as we talked about, like, because... What do you think, man? Do you think, like, the rapture is going to be, like, millions of people just drop dead?
I think our bodies will.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, because...
Okay, so we're going to receive a new body.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we don't need this body.
I was about to say.
So our soul is going to be taken out of heaven. They say the Bible calls it the twinkling of an eye. So that's like the blink of an eye.
Which would be an interesting concept because, like, in media and everything, we've kind of portrayed the rapture as, like, our clothes falling and our body is gone.
Yeah.
And I understand the semblance of that as that we're gone.
Yeah.
But like...
Well, and that's Hollywood again, and that's also, I think, Christian movies not wanting to be
show
like...
dead people.
Like gory. Because it's going to be legit nasty, dude, because there's going to be millions of dead bodies. You imagine the stink in just a couple days? Because they're not going to be able to get all these bodies cleaned up that quick.
Right, but like the moment that happens, I can understand, too, why that would happen. Because, well, God has a tendency not to be so blunt. He tends to leave the mystery.
Well, and how much more so, here's what they'll do, John. They're going to blame it on, it's like some disease hitting everybody. And so all these millions of people died.
Exactly, and it's all going to be part of the illusion that Satan wants to put. And so what I'm getting at with that is, like, I think that's genuinely what's going to happen, is that your body will just plop over dead.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
Yeah, I guarantee it, because that would make sense, and
we
it would
don't need this body.
Well, it would still allow for faith to take place. Because if everyone just disappeared, everyone would be like, "Oh, that's a rapture,"
Yeah,
and
it was a rapture. Yeah, there's going to be that little bit of inkling of like
it's going to be.
You got to believe that happened.
Mm-hmm. So you best believe, like, when a major like everyone just drops dead at the same time. kind of thing happens,
Yeah.
that's probably the rapture.
Yep.
You know, like guarantee it. So if you're still around after that, you best start praying and fasting.
Yeah.
Because this is your last chance. You know, you're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really like the Left Behind series. Have you ever watched those films? The old ones.
I
old
have.
Ones, you know.
Towards
Towards the third one, they were like kind of whatever.
I never been
awful.
that big of a fan of them.
The first one I enjoyed. I mean, I just like the concept of like the tricks.
I just thought
so
they
it's
was
like,
really cheesy.
Well, it was low budget, but I like the concept because it talks about like the tricks that the Antichrist would try to pull, and like they do exactly that. It's like this mysterious bacteria made these people disappear, is what they like blame it on.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's pretty much what's gonna happen. And then this, I don't know though. I believe the Antichrist is gonna kind of come before the great. I think I might call it the great birth.
Well, I think there's going to be a pre-tribulation.
Yeah.
It's going to usher in the Antichrist. It's going to be somebody that everybody knows by then.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, and I'm going to use this person as an example. Donald Trump is not the Antichrist, okay?
Right.
But I'm just saying, everybody knows Trump, okay?
Right.
Everybody. The whole world knows Trump. Before
Right.
Trump was president, everybody knew Trump.
Yeah.
So it's going to be somebody like that
Right.
that everybody knows. Okay?
Well, something I took out of Revelation, because I heard a lot of people like, Obama is the Antichrist, you know. When it
that
came
was
out.
like a big deal.
And I sat back, even as a kid, I knew that. I was like, he's not. You
Well,
know? And the reason
clearly
was
says
because
it has to be of Aryan descent.
does it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
If you
Well-
look into the revelation of like how
Right.
I forget where it was.
But I mean, there's another thing it mentions too, which is that the Antichrist is going to be like worshipped by like a lot of people and fool a lot of Christians.
Yeah.
So like Trump came closer, like in that category of
Actually, kind of so. Yes.
yeah, you know, everyone's looking at him, you know, and a lot of Christians really did hold him to like a, you know, God sent him to save the earth and the country, and you know, he's come closer to being a form of Antichrist than
Although
Obama
people
did.
worshipped Obama too.
They did. You know, they really did. And all I'm just saying, the one thing that... But here's the thing that Trump misses the Antichrist accusation for me on that. Because I don't think... Firstly, I don't think he's going to be president of the United States. I don't think that's going to be the case. Secondly, it immediately says that everyone's going to like the guy. That he's going to be, like, lovable.
Yeah, for the majority.
Trump is not... You know, I like him, but go shake a stick. Most people don't.
Well, okay, so I would say the majority of the nation does.
Oh, okay.
But the liberal left don't. And the Europeans don't.
Yeah. So that's where I was like, it's the same thing that I was like with Obama.
I think he's going to
like,
be European. I think he's going to be like, hey.
Well, I
like
think he's going to be
French
Austrian.
Or could be.
I think he will be. And I can't remember, I think he came to me in a dream, but I think he's going to be Austrian. And it was like something to do, like I was studying with like Napoleon, Adolf Hitler, and everything like that. And I was looking at Austria and something about it.
I think he's going to be French. He's going to be Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau. I don't like Justin Trudeau. But like, you know, and it talks about like everyone's going to see him as like a savior of the, you know.
Right.
He's going to be a false messiah pretty much.
Right.
And looking at that.
Well, he's going to bring an era of peace.
Yeah.
It says that for a certain time, and it doesn't say how long. You got to understand, like the Bible, the way God has time, he doesn't deal with time like we do.
Right.
Okay, so a time, shoot, what if that's 50 years?
Yeah. What if it's 5,000?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Well, it'd have to be within that Antichrist's lifetime.
Oh well,
so
yeah.
it's not going to be 5,000.
It could be like 50 years, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, to put into perspective, even the timeline of Earth is short. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, because
Well,
the prophets,
the
even in the
Earth-
Bible, when Jesus rose back in heaven, they referred to it as the end of time.
The Earth is actually very, very young.
Yeah, it is. You know,
From creation to now.
right.
In comparative of like what evolutionists think.
Yeah. It's like 10,000.
Yeah.
It's like 12,000 years old.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
And I mean, like, they're like, no, it's 12 trillion years old. It's like, no.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to back that up. They say there is, but there's nothing.
No.
There's nothing there.
Well, and carbon dating has been proven to be inaccurate.
Yeah, extremely so.
Yeah.
And, just as an example, like, there's some things that are just asinine. Like, the volcano in Hawaii has been running since, like, 10, let's see, like 40 trillion BC or whatever.
Yes.
Well, if that was running since 40 trillion BC, the Hawaiian volcano would be here in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Which is like, because it would have grown that far.
Yeah, it would have been this far.
Right. And I mean, like, I don't know if it was, like, don't get me wrong, like, that's not an accurate judgment, but how they're saying the Earth is that old, that would be over here by now.
Yeah.
And that's my proof right there, is like these areas that it just doesn't make any sense, and they talk about these stars and everything. It's like, to me, a lot of people, when they start looking at space, they see it as a faith like breaker, because they're like, they look at space and they look at its like expansiveness and how huge it is, and nothing's going on in any other planet that we know of. Like, I don't know, it just seems to break people, like, when it comes to Christianity.
See, to me, it don't. Like,
to me, like, I look at Saturn and I'm like, well, there's a reason that exists.
Well, exactly, and there's a reason why all of our planets in our solar system, like, actually, if you look at it, have a purpose.
It's all, like, if Saturn or Jupiter or Neptune or even just Mercury, if any of those just disappeared, our planet would be, like, fucked.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. And the thing is people always like that quote. It's like, well, you got this billions and billions of light years, and you think we're the only ones here? Yeah.
I don't think so, man. Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard Christians tell me that you can't believe in aliens, though, and be a Christian.
The thing is if God's word says that all of creation, that means the whole universe,
yeah,
is decaying and dying because of what we did, okay?
Damn.
Because of the fall of man, okay?
Right.
So if you believe in aliens, you believe that there's another civilization out there somewhere that are paying for what you did, and it's not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
That is not God. God is just.
Well, I mean, an innocent lamb dies for the sin of the Jew. You know what I mean? Like, back in the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, it would make sense.
An
like,
innocent lamb is not made in the... And also, we are made in the image of God. So any other intelligent being
right.
wouldn't be fair.
Well, I mean, I see him more as
God
like
would
an
love
animal.
them less.
Well, I would see it more as like an animal. Not so much as like an intelligent being, but I think it would be very possible out there in the endless solar system that perhaps some type of creature exists.
So,
not like a human replica.
I'm not saying.
Right.
See, I don't really count that as an alien to
right,
me.
okay.
I'm not saying, like, even bacteria.
Right.
I'm saying, okay, so that could be out there. I have no problem with that. But I mean little green men in spaceships.
Oh,
no.
like that. Well,
yeah. Sentient.
Sentient.
There is no other sentient life in the universe.
And I could probably make that a fair adjustment. And I mean, like, what I've heard people say is that, like, these, UFOs and things are, like, spiritual. And I'm like, well, demons don't need a spaceship, that's kind of silly.
Well, I think a lot of the UFOs we see is government stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they have technology we have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about, like you said, you saw that triangle thing in the sky. I've seen it too.
I have seen a UFO. But here's the thing. People are like, oh, you saw alien? No. I saw an unidentified flying object. That doesn't mean it's an alien. I just don't know what it was flying in the air. I could be from the let's take a Cessna back into a time machine, back into the 1800s. And this guy, cowboy, riding on his horse, sees a Cessna flying over. Well, he doesn't know what that is. So that's a UFO.
Right.
Same thing.
I don't know. I don't know. Animals have created things sometimes. Perhaps an animal figured out how to fly through space. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe these are interdimensional creatures. Because I do believe in different dimensions.
Perhaps. I mean, imps of type, right? Like something, not exactly a demon, not exactly an angel, but something else.
Yeah.
And, like a lot of people will be like,
because
well,
God's Word talks about, like, lots of different kinds of angels.
Right.
So, maybe...
Well, I mean, it could also be in reference, it talks about the heavenlies a lot. And what it means by the heavenlies, of course, is like the universe and upwards. The heavenlies. So it talks about like these different things. I don't know, but yeah, no, that's the thing. I believe it would be kind of odd. You're right, for God to have another species that's like decaying, because of what we did.
Yeah.
But at the same kind of token, like. No, you're right. Because it does say all creation. That would have to be the case.
All creation.
Because I do take the Bible very literally. I don't want to just put that like, oh, they just meant the earth. Like that would just be dumb. Because it says all creation, and all creation.
In the
is
beginning,
all creation.
God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens is the rest of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in the universe.
Which right there, just gonna say that's an ancient piece of literature. Effing old. You're looking at the verse Bible thing.
Correct.
The heavens? Wait a minute. So, not only, he didn't just say God created the sky. He said God created the heavens. Look. No way in shit did Joe Blow, whoever wrote Genesis, right?
Yeah,
know that there was Moses, right? There's no way he knew about space.
No.
Like he saw the moon, he saw the sun, he saw
and
stars.
That's another crazy thing to understand this, John.
Right.
All the way up to Moses, and that's all the way Adam, Noah, all this.
Mm-hmm.
All that history was before that was carried on verbally.
Yeah.
That was the first time it was written down.
Right.
That's weird.
Isn't it?
Because there's a lot of shit that goes on
right
between all that to know all that verbally.
Right. But right there proves that there's something up with the Bible.
That is the spiritual divinity of God.
Right, where it's like, look, space.
The inspired
something
space.
something we only started to like figure out in like the Greeks when they invented the telescope.
Yeah.
And even then they weren't really sure
what it was.
Right. And then now it was only like in the 60s we really started to figure out what space was.
Yeah.
And then right there it's like, you got good a good, 10,000 years difference.
Yeah.
Because like, how would you know what the heavenlies were?
Yeah.
That's just something that's odd. I mean, even though, like, Pastor Joslin, he did a thing, it was like proving the Bible scientifically. It was a sermon.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about, like, the Bible was like the first religious literature to actually refer to the earth as a sphere.
Yeah.
Which immediately, again, like, that's, they didn't figure that out on their own accord.
No, because you can't see that.
No.
That's why it's so hilarious. But that's why flat earthers believe what they believe. Because, looking from a person just not knowing,
right,
what I see around me does look flat. Okay?
Yeah.
I can't see the curvature of the earth.
I mean, in the Quran, they don't even mention that the earth has in the Quran it mentions the sun goes down into a muddy pit.
Yeah.
is where it goes for the evening.
Yeah.
You know, and Muslims, modern day Muslims, like, I mean, I'm sure they have like some kind of excuse that it was like metaphorical or something like that, but you know, now that they're scientifically inclined, trust me, they are. But like, it's interesting, you know, the Bible and everything with that it's like, whoa, how did they figure that out? And that you're right, it's the divinity. And I've never had any scripture pop like the Bible does. You know, when the Quran speaks of Jesus, I gotta say that was nice. Like, what they said about him was nice, but it is hollow because it doesn't refer to him as the Son of God.
Well, yeah, the Quran
Messiah.
just talks of Jesus as another prophet.
Yeah, but what they do say about him, he's like, it's something like he's a beautiful dove in a world of filth. And I was like, yeah, that's beautiful. You know, I was like, I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was hollow because hey, it's just another prophet.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's sad.
Well, and that's Muslims actually. They go after that. They're like, well, we believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
They'll tell unbelievers that, or like you know, to try to get them to Islam.
Right.
Well, we believe in Jesus, and people
Right.
like they don't know. It's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then then they'll go into what they talk about Jesus in the Quran, and it's
Right.
like, well, if you're gonna go in that, I mean, even the Romans. I mean, we have actual physical proof of a Jesus of Nazareth
Right.
from secular records.
Who lived,
So
you know, X amount of
you
years
admitting
and
that there's
died.
a Jesus of Nazareth doesn't
Right.
impress me.
Right. Well, I mean, even biblical scripture, even the demons in hell believe in Christ and they tremble in fear.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a big verse, too. You know, I've actually had to say it a lot
Even
this
the
year.
demons believe in God and tremble.
It's like, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just an interesting thing. I actually quite like this podcast so far a lot more. But we probably ought to wrap it up. It's getting kind of late. It's about 12:30.
Yeah, we probably better.
Not, you know, and we got a little bit started early. This is about a 3-hour podcast. 2
I
hours 40
I
minutes.
thoroughly enjoyed this one. I think last one was
It's sad.
was a little bit, yeah.
I
it was
just
a little
didn't.
bit depressing.
I didn't like it.
No.
I was sad.
Even
by
my
the end
wife
of it.
said, because I asked her, I said, how do you think it went? And she's like, well, you guys were kind of all over the place, and I had a hard time, like, following it, and
Right.
she's all, I just kind of felt depressed. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
And I mean, this one, we were all over the place too, but I think we had more fun with it.
I think we did.
Yeah, and I think just that alone is just better.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this one a bit more. So we should be able to do this next Friday. Do we have anything?
I don't see no reason why not.
Alright.
Please join us next Friday. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us what you think, guys. Like, again, we're doing this for you guys. We want this podcast to grow, but it can't grow without you.
Well, as I've always loved to say, we are only as strong as our signal.
Right.
You know. So share us around. Please do. You know, if not just for, you know, if not just for like, you know, you don't want to, I don't know, but just do it. You know, like if you really like this stuff, invest yourself, and we'll, you know, just like anything that needs investment, we'll produce.
Throw us a bone here.
Yeah, throw us a bone here, and we're not even asking that much. And I'm not saying like trying to guilt trip you, but it's like if you want us to stick around, you know, show it. Show
Yeah,
it, you
yeah.
know?
Because see, the more popular we get, the more content eventually we will be able to make. Our dream is to maybe have like a nightly show one day.
Right, yeah,
And
like a nightly show.
That would be so cool.
Right, with more segments, more organization, better
Yeah.
equipment, where we
Eventually
actually sound
videos
amazing.
where we do comedy skits.
Yeah, videos. And
yeah.
also like a webcam or like an actual camera that we could have move face to face, like a real experience.
Yeah, yeah. You actually get to meet the man behind the curtain, the men behind the curtain.
Right, and you know, like just a generally more entertaining show. And you know, I think every episode that goes on, we get more and more acquainted with just the equipment we even have just now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, I tried to make an intro, but for some reason the People's House of Censorship,
The YouTube lords.
yeah, the YouTube
Gestapo.
Didn't like Martin Luther King being used in it. I don't understand why. But
Let that be a lesson to you. YouTube doesn't like Martin Luther King.
yeah, Martin Luther King is a no-go on YouTube, so don't be sharing him around. He's a right-wing extremist. See?
Yeah.
Well, okay, we'll go and wrap it up. I'll go and say our prayer. And thank you, Lord, for bringing us here tonight. And thank you for your guidance again. Bless this podcast and bless the people that listen to it. Bless the people that don't. Lord, I pray for my adversaries today. I pray for my friends. I pray for my family. And I pray for all those suffering. Lord, thank you for renewing your mercies every morning. You are beautiful. And thank you for your son's sacrifice.
Yes, Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
Good night, everybody.